Chapter 2783. This. The mermaid princess could not help but look at Qin Feiyang. If he knew that they would leave again, her father would definitely be sad, so she did not know how to explain it to him. Daughter, why are you looking at him? The mermaid emperor frowned. The black-winged king glanced at the mermaid emperor and said, Look at this old man. He's so excited that he's lost his mind. Yes. Looking at the princess's expression, I know that she will definitely leave again. The white-winged king thought to himself. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, Uncle, we're only here to visit you temporarily. We'll leave again after some time. Leave again? The mermaid emperor was stunned. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled. There are still many things in the ancient realm that have not been settled. I'm puzzled. What is it that needs you brats to settle? Are there no other big shots in the ancient realm? The mermaid emperor frowned. Father, look at what you're saying. Feiyang is no longer a brat. The mermaid princess looked at the mermaid emperor unhappily. You haven't married him yet, and you're already speaking up for him? This daughter of yours is indeed raised by someone else. The mermaid emperor shook his head and sighed. The mermaid princess said helplessly, Father, Feiyang is now one of the big shots in the ancient realm. So what if he's a big shot? If you want to marry my daughter, then you have to listen to me. The mermaid emperor snorted coldly. The mermaid princess and Qin Feiyang were stunned. Although this was a little unreasonable, they really could not find a reason to refute it. What about the ancestors? Don't you care about the ancestors' lives? The mermaid princess said. What? Ancestors? The mermaid emperor was surprised. The black-winged king and the white-winged king's eyes trembled slightly, then they stared at the mermaid princess. Yes, ancestors. Whether it's the first mermaid emperor, the first black-winged king, or the white-winged king, they're all alive. The mermaid princess said. Not dead. How are they now? The mermaid emperor hurriedly asked. It's all right, but the opponents they are facing right now are very, very strong. So they need Feiyang to assist them. The mermaid princess said. How strong? The black-winged king asked. The mermaid princess said. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that any one of them could instantly annihilate Great Qin and the entire Forgotten Continent. No way. The three of them looked at each other. This was too terrifying. It was completely beyond imagination. Of course, Feiyang also has this ability now. Thus, he must return to the ancient realm. The mermaid princess said. What? The black-winged monarch and the white-winged monarch looked at Qin Feiyang in shock. This kid had already become so powerful? They could destroy Great Qin and the Forgotten Continent. The mermaid emperor looked at Qin Feiyang, took a deep breath, and asked, What about the Qin emperor? The Qin emperor is still alive. And Lu Zhengyang. They are all the strongest in the ancient realm. The mermaid princess said. The mermaid emperor pondered for a moment. After a while, he looked at Qin Feiyang and said, All right, I don't care if you go or stay. I only have one request. Please speak. Qin Feiyang said. Get married. After you get married and give birth to a grandson for me, only then can you return to the ancient realm. The mermaid emperor said resolutely. The black-winged monarch and the white-winged monarch looked at each other and couldn't help but shake their heads. It was indeed as they had expected. However, Qin Feiyang was in a difficult position. I say, you brat, you've known my daughter since you were young. Even if you want to experience the process of love, it should be about time, right? Or are you saying that you don't plan to marry my daughter at all? The mermaid emperor raised his eyebrows. No, no. Qin Feiyang hurriedly waved his hand and said, Heaven and earth can bear witness to my feelings for your daughter. Then why are you hesitating? Is it so difficult to get married? The mermaid emperor said angrily. Father, why are you so fierce? The mermaid princess said angrily. Shut up. The mermaid emperor glared at the mermaid princess. Then, he looked at Qin Feiyang and said, I only have one daughter. I don't want her to waste her youth on an unpredictable man. Father, love is mutual and mutual investment. How can it be a waste? The mermaid princess was dissatisfied. I told you to shut up. Didn't you hear me? Now that your wings have hardened, You won't even listen to your father's words." The mermaid emperor said angrily. "I." The mermaid princess lowered her head, feeling wronged. Qin Feiyang grabbed the mermaid princess's hand and gave her a comforting look. Then, he looked at the mermaid emperor and said, "I believe you know that the people I admire the most in my life are my ancestors." "I know." The mermaid emperor nodded. "Therefore, when I get married, I hope to receive my ancestors' blessings. I also hope that all my relatives are here. But now, you are in Great Qin, and my ancestors are in the ancient world. It is impossible to have the best of both worlds. Also, now that the situation is not settled and the dragons have not been eliminated, I really don't have the mood, let alone having a child. You have been through it. You know how it feels to have a child. With a child, there will be more worries. With worries, there will be no way to go all out. You don't know how powerful our enemies are. If we are not careful, we will be smashed to pieces. Uncle, I don't dare to take the risk, because if we lose, not only me, but all my companions and my ancestors will only have one ending. They will die in the ancient world and won't even have the chance to return to their hometown." Qin Feiyang sighed. "Yes, father. The enemies Feiyang is facing now are not comparable to the former imperial preceptor. He has to fight with them wholeheartedly and without any worries. Before he came back, Feiyang encountered a great enemy of the past and almost died," the mermaid princess said. Hearing this, the mermaid emperor looked at the two of them with an uncertain expression. "Old man, they are not young anymore. They have their own considerations and plans. Don't blindly interfere." The Blackwing monarch shook his head. The White-winged monarch also looked at Qin Feiyang and the mermaid princess and said with a smile, "You two have to understand. Seeing Lu Zheng's children all grow up, this old man is anxious." Qin Feiyang and the mermaid princess looked at each other and could not help but shake their heads and laugh. "You talk too much." The mermaid emperor rolled his eyes at the Blackwing monarch and the White-winged monarch. Then, he looked at Qin Feiyang and the mermaid princess and said, "Fine, fine. Do as you wish." "Thank you, father." "Thank you, uncle." Qin Feiyang and the mermaid princess looked at each other and smiled. "Then when are you leaving?" the mermaid emperor asked. "I'm not sure yet," the mermaid princess said. The mermaid emperor pondered for a while and looked at Qin Feiyang. He said, "I know you are very busy, so I won't force you to stay here. But my daughter." The mermaid emperor then looked at the mermaid princess and said, "You must stay here for a while and talk to father." "Okay." The mermaid princess nodded. The mermaid emperor then looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "But no matter how busy you are, you have to stay for a meal." "That's for sure." Qin Feiyang nodded with a smile and said, "Give me a portion of all the delicacies you have here. I'll accompany you for a few drinks." "Sure." The mermaid emperor laughed and looked at the Blackwing monarch and the White-winged monarch. He said, "You two are not allowed to leave either." I couldn't ask for more. The two of them looked at each other and laughed. The mermaid emperor also laughed. He looked at the door and shouted, "Men!" The two mermaids outside the door immediately walked in. The mermaid emperor said, "Hurry up and prepare a banquet at noon. Make it the most luxurious. I want to accompany my future son-in-law and have a few drinks." "Yes." The two of them responded respectfully, turned around and quickly ran out. "Sister, we're in for a treat." Lu Xiaofei chuckled. "You little brat, when have I not given you and your sister good food and drinks?" The mermaid emperor glared at Lu Xiaofei. Lu Xiaofei said, "How can that be compared to the banquet for uncle? Your uncle is an adult, and you're a kid. Of course, it can't be compared." The mermaid emperor pouted. "I'm not a kid anymore." Lu Xiaofei was dissatisfied. "Then you're a big kid." The mermaid emperor said. Lu Xiaofei's expression stiffened. He said angrily, "Grandpa mermaid emperor, you're doing this on purpose." "Haha." The mermaid emperor laughed. The white-eyed wolf rolled his eyes and looked at the group. "You guys chat. I'll go out for a walk." After saying that, he ran out like a wisp of smoke. "Don't mess around again," Qin Feiyang immediately shouted. "Got it," the white-eyed wolf said without turning his head. His tone was extremely impatient. "Don't worry about it. Let it do whatever it wants. Anyway, it's our home. The Mermaid Emperor waved his hand. You don't know. If you don't do anything about this guy, he'll cause a lot of trouble here. Qin Feiyong said. It doesn't matter. The Mermaid Emperor waved his hand, looked at the Mermaid Princess, and asked, Daughter, did the three ancestors treat you well in the ancient realm? Of course. They like me very much. They even personally taught me cultivation and taught me the supremacy-level divine arts. The Mermaid Princess nodded. Supremacy-level divine arts? Qin Feiyong was stunned. He said suspiciously, Why didn't I know about this? You didn't ask. It's not just me. Sister Rushuang, Old Zhao, and the others all have supremacy-level divine arts. The Mermaid Princess said. All of them? The corner of Qin Feiyong's mouth twitched. He said, All of you have it, but I don't? That's too unfair. The Mermaid Princess shook her head and smiled. Do you still need them to give it to you? It's not a matter of giving it or not. It's a matter of attitude. Also, how can you call Qin Rushuang sister? If you call her sister, what should I call her? Wouldn't the seniority be messed up? Qin Feiyong was speechless. She asked me to call her that. The Mermaid Princess said, Nonsense. Qin Feiyong shook his head. Wait a minute. The Mermaid Emperor interrupted them and said, What's a supremacy-level divine art? Is it powerful? Of course. The Mermaid Princess nodded. How powerful? The Black-Winged King and the White-Winged King were also curious. How should I put it? It seems that you won't understand even if I tell you. The Mermaid Princess was a little troubled. Forget it. Let's not talk about it. Let's talk about something else. For example, what did you experience in the ancient realm? The Mermaid Emperor waved his hand. There's nothing to talk about my experience because it was Feiyong who protected me. Feiyong's experience is rich. The Mermaid Princess smiled. Kid, you tell us. The Mermaid Emperor looked at Qin Feiyong, his eyes full of anticipation. Then you must sit tight. Don't be scared. Qin Feiyong smiled. Brat, am I that weak? The Mermaid Emperor stared at Qin Feiyong. Haha, Qin Feiyong laughed, casually picked some small matters, and slowly told them. As for those soul-stirring events, he automatically ignored them, because he did not want everyone to worry about him. Chapter 2784. However, even if it was just a small matter, it was still shocking for the Mermaid Emperor and the other two. After all, the environment and altitude were different. Time flew by. Noon soon arrived. At the dining table, Qin Feiyong asked Hua Yi for a few more jars of celestial immortal wine. This made Hua Yi extremely depressed. When he brought the 5-clawed golden dragon to the Heaven Immortal Tower, he also spent a lot of effort to get these jars of celestial immortal wine. Now, it all benefited Qin Feiyong. But there was no other way. If he wanted to go to the Heaven Immortal Tower again, he had to rely on Qin Feiyong's space-time gate. So, although he was very reluctant, he still obediently gave it to Qin Feiyong. After tasting the celestial immortal wine for the first time, the Mermaid Emperor and the other two were full of praise. Such a divine brew was comparable to bejeweled nectar. After eating, Qin Feiyong took out the tea leaves and drank for a while. These tea leaves also amazed the Mermaid Emperor and the other two. They were also more and more curious about the ancient realm. What kind of place was it? Even the tea leaves and wine were so different. On the street outside, Princess, son-in-law, Qin Feiyong walked on the street. The Mermaid Princess was holding his neighbor's arm with a happy smile on her face. Everywhere they went, the mermaids they met would happily greet them. Qin Feiyong and the Mermaid Princess naturally responded with a smile. Unknowingly, a square entered their sight. There were 4 statues in the square. Each statue exuded a shocking aura. This was the forbidden land of the Mermaid clan, the land of inheritance. The 4 statues were of Qin Batian, the first Mermaid Emperor, the first Black-Winged King, and the first White-Winged King. The first Mermaid Emperor, the Black-Winged King, and the White-Winged King all had 5 pairs of wings on their backs. They looked majestic. Qin Feiyong suddenly asked, How many wings do they have now? Which one? Qin Feiyong's sudden question made the Mermaid Princess somewhat unable to react. That's them. Qin Feiyang pointed at the statues of the first mermaid emperor. The mermaid princess nodded, then shook her head and said, "They usually keep their wings, so I don't know." "I see." Qin Feiyang suddenly smiled and asked, "How many wings do you have now?" "9 pairs of wings." The mermaid princess said, "So many." Qin Feiyang was surprised. "Every time I make a breakthrough, I'll gain a bunch of wings. From the War King to the 9 Heavens realm, there are exactly 9 great realms. That's not right. You don't even know how many wings I have. It seems that you don't care about me at all." The mermaid princess pouted, feeling wronged. Ugh. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He smiled bitterly and said, "You have never opened your wings before, have you?" "Humph. You just don't care about me." The mermaid princess snorted coldly. All right. It's my fault, my fault." Qin Feiyang quickly apologized. There was no need to say anything. No matter how big the world was, his wife was the most important. The mermaid princess giggled and leaned her head on Qin Feiyang's shoulder, saying, "Feiyang, I won't go to the gathering at the Butterfly Valley tonight. It's good that you don't go. If everyone knows that you came back, they will definitely force us to get married." Qin Feiyang said, "Are you so afraid of getting married?" The mermaid princess seemed a little disappointed. "Afraid?" Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. He turned to look at the mermaid princess's face and said helplessly, "Don't you know what I'm thinking?" Okay, okay, okay. Whatever you say." The mermaid princess nodded. "Thank you." Qin Feiyang smiled gratefully. To be honest, the mermaid princess was very tolerant of him. If it were another woman, they might have already quarreled with him. Therefore, he cherished this woman in front of him very much. No matter what, he could not let her down, let alone let her suffer any grievances. In the future, he would definitely give the mermaid princess a wedding that no woman would envy. Unknowingly, the two walked to the square. "Greetings, princess." "Greetings, your highness." The mermaids guarding the land of inheritance quickly bowed. "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded with a smile and waved his hand, saying, "Leave the square first." "Leave the square?" The group of mermaids was stunned. What did he mean? "Don't tell me you think that I'm going to do something to the land of inheritance?" Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. Hearing this, the group of mermaids smiled embarrassedly and then ran out of the square. What a joke. Although this land of inheritance was of great significance to the mermaid clan, it was the same for Qin Feiyang. Besides, the princess was next to him. Even if Qin Feiyang had this idea, he did not have the guts. Obviously, they had already labeled Qin Feiyang as a henpecked husband. "Feiyang, actually, this is not necessary." The mermaid princess looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Why is it not necessary? The Liu family and the imperial palace both have crystal veins and spirit veins. Why can't you favor one and discriminate against the other? Besides, this is my father-in-law's home." Qin Feiyang smiled. "You're not serious." The mermaid princess rolled her eyes at Qin Feiyang. "Isn't it? You little girl, don't tell me you have other thoughts. I'm telling you, this is not allowed." "You must be mine," Qin Feiyang said. "Who is yours?" "I am me. I'm not anyone's." The mermaid princess raised her arrogant head, but her eyes were full of happiness. Qin Feiyang lovingly scratched the mermaid princess's nose and then rose into the air. The mermaid princess also rose into the air and stood next to Qin Feiyang. "Look, what are the son-in-law and the princess doing?" "I don't know." The mermaids around all looked at Qin Feiyang and the princess curiously. Boom. Suddenly, waves of divine power emerged from Qin Feiyang's body and flooded into the ground. Boom. The next moment, as Qin Feiyang waved his hand, the entire land of inheritance was directly uprooted from the ground. The surrounding mermaids' faces changed. Those who did not know the truth really thought that Qin Feiyang was going to destroy the land of inheritance. The mermaid emperor, black-winged king, and white-winged king heard the noise and hurried over to check. "Grandpa Mermaid Emperor, don't worry. Uncle is placing the crystal vein and soul vein." Lu Xiaofei followed and comforted them. Crystal vein? Soul vein? The Mermaid Emperor and the other two were stunned. These two things are very helpful for cultivation. You'll know in a while. Lu Xiaofei kept them in suspense. Sure enough, as Lu Xiaofei's voice fell, 10 crystal veins and soul veins suddenly appeared in front of Qin Feiyang. They were all 8th stage divine level. Immediately after, Qin Feiyang waved his hand again, and the crystal vein and soul vein were neatly arranged in the huge pit below. A torrential surge of energy also surged out. Boom! The cultivation of some nearby mermaids also began to break through uncontrollably. What's going on? My cultivation. All of them were shocked and bewildered. The Mermaid Emperor and the other two were dumbfounded when they saw this scene. Lu Xiaofei chuckled and said, "This is the power of the soul vein and crystal vein. What kind of supreme treasure is this?" Hearing Lu Xiaofei's words, the Mermaid Emperor and the other two looked at each other, their eyes full of shock. After everything was done, Qin Feiyang brought the Mermaid Princess and landed beside the Mermaid Emperor. "Feiyang, thank you." The Mermaid Emperor was grateful. "Didn't you say that we are family? Why are you being so polite?" Qin Feiyang smiled. Yes. We are family. We are family." The Mermaid Emperor nodded repeatedly. Qin Feiyang smiled and looked at the Mermaid Princess. "I'll go find Ling Yunfei and pick you up." "Okay." The Mermaid Princess nodded obediently. Qin Feiyang looked at the Mermaid Emperor and the other two and said with a smile, Uncles, I'll take my leave first." "Are you in such a hurry? Sit for a while more." The Mermaid Emperor said, "I haven't seen these brothers of mine for a few hundred years. I can't wait." Qin Feiyang said, "All right then." The Mermaid Emperor nodded. Qin Feiyang smiled and said loudly, "White-eyed wolf, let's go." Whoosh! At that moment, Qin Feiyang swept up the Lu siblings and flew towards the surface of the sea. Somewhere in the city, what was the white-eyed wolf doing? Hearing Qin Feiyang's voice, he also flew towards the surface of the sea. Looking at Qin Feiyang's back view, the Mermaid Emperor was filled with emotions. Thinking back to the first time he saw Qin Feiyang, how old was he? He was just a little kid. And now, he was already in existence that countless people respected. Even his various deeds had become legends. "What are you doing?" Suddenly, the Mermaid Emperor looked at the Black-Winged Monarch and asked. He saw the two of them standing there in a daze, not saying a word. Hearing the Mermaid Emperor's voice, the two were slightly stunned and asked, "Did you hear him call us uncle just now?" The Mermaid Emperor was stunned. "You are elders. Shouldn't he call you uncle?" No. After all, back then The two quickly waved their hands and said. The Mermaid Princess smiled and said, "Feiyang has already let go of what happened back then. You don't have to keep brooding over it." The two looked at each other, shook their heads and sighed. To Qin Feiyang, these might be small matters, but to them, these were memories that could never be erased. On the other side of the Sea of Despair was the border of the county of Yin, the Desert of Death. Above the desert, Qin Feiyang, the White-Eyed Wolf, and the Lu siblings walked slowly. "White-Eyed Wolf, do you still remember the scene when we crossed this desert back then?" Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. "Of course. At that time, it was someone called Commander who escorted us into the Desert of Death." The White-Eyed Wolf said, "Commander Su." Qin Feiyang smiled. "That's right. At that time, he was ordered to kill us. In the end, he was persuaded by us and turned back. I still remember that later on, we met a giant python. We fooled it and sent us to the Sea of Despair." The White-Eyed Wolf said, "This giant python followed us and transformed into a dragon. Now, I don't know where it is fooling around with the Crocodile Emperor and the others." Qin Feiyang shook his head. Needless to say, they must be living a good life. The White-Eyed Wolf pursed his lips. "Isn't it a relief for us if they are living well?" Qin Feiyang smiled. Chapter 2785. That's true. The White-Eyed Wolf nodded. After all, they were partners who had gone through thick and thin together. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Also, this is where I got the elixir scripture back then." The White-Eyed Wolf was stunned. After thinking carefully for a moment, he nodded and said, Yes. Ling Yunfei was there too?" "Yes. At that time, We were here to help Ling Yunfei find out the truth behind his father's death. I didn't expect to find a valley and meet Mu Tianyang's divine bone. Qin Feiyang shook his head. I remember that valley was formed by Mu Tianyang's spatial divine item. The white-eyed wolf said, yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Without realizing it, the three of them and the wolf had passed through the death desert. They saw many people in the desert. These people were all looking for treasures in the desert, because there had always been rumors that there were many treasures in the death desert. Of course, there were indeed treasures. As for whether they could find them or not, it depended on their luck. And from the beginning to the end, no one found Qin Feiyang and the others. After all, Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf were too fast. The people in the county of Yin were generally battle monarchs and below. Naturally, they couldn't catch them. Not long after, the three of them and the wolf arrived above a city. The city wasn't big. With Qin Feiyang's current cultivation, he could cross the entire city in one step. This city was Black Bear City. Back then, Qin Feiyang and Ling Yunfei met in Black Bear City, and Feng Ling Heir and Feng Cheng. The Black Bear King and his son also met outside the city. Apart from these people, there were many others. But the others were just passers-by in Qin Feiyang's life. After looking for a while, Qin Feiyang walked in the direction of Iron Ox Town. Time passed bit by bit. Finally, a lake came into sight. The lake was not big, and it was surrounded by green weeping willows. The lake water was also very clear and sparkling. Beside the lake, there was a courtyard. The courtyard was not big and looked very simple. In front of the courtyard, there was a small path paved with cobblestones that surrounded the entire lake. This was a place with a beautiful environment, fresh air, and tranquil health. And this was Qin Feiyang and Uncle Yuan's former residence. Qin Feiyang looked around the lake in amazement. Hundreds of years had passed, yet this place was still in such good condition. No, this place is better than before. Just like that secluded path, it was not so exquisite in the past. The small courtyard was also very clean. There was not even a single blade of grass. In the middle of the lake, there was a stone platform. On the stone platform, there was a statue. This was also a statue of Qin Feiyang. What's the situation? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. Could it be that there were still people living here? Daddy, did you catch it? Come out quickly. Suddenly, an anxious voice could be heard from the other side of the lake. This was the voice of a little girl, which sounded very immature. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Following the voice, he saw a 5- or 6-year-old girl squatting under a weeping willow. The girl was wearing a small flower dress, with 2 ponytails and a small bell around her neck. She looked very cute. There is indeed someone living here? Qin Feiyang murmured. But why did this little girl look a little familiar? Familiar? How could she be familiar? He had not come back for hundreds of years. It was impossible to see this little girl, but Qin Feiyang felt that she was a little familiar. Could she be? Lu Xiaofei and Lu Xiaojia looked at each other with a trace of surprise in their eyes. You know her? Qin Feiyang asked. I'm not sure. Lu Xiaofei shook his head, then looked around and murmured, but I think she is the only one who will stay here. Who? Qin Feiyang said. Sister Yin'er. Lu Xiaofei said. Sister Yin'er? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Lu Xiaofei said. She is Uncle Ling Yunfei's daughter. What? She is little Ling's daughter? White-eyed wolf was stunned. Qin Feiyang looked at Lu Xiaofei suspiciously and said, Since she is Ling Yunfei's daughter, how can you not know her? The last time I saw her was when she was 2 years old. Now she is 5 or 6 years old. Her appearance has changed a lot. It must be difficult to recognize her. Lu Xiaofei said. Qin Feiyang asked, In that case, this place is also cleaned by Ling Yunfei? Uncle Ling is a man. How can he be so meticulous? Everything here was cleaned by my aunt. Last time I heard from Aunt that she would come here to clean every once in a while. The reason is that this is your home, and you will come back sooner or later. And usually, their family also treats this place as a vacation place. They will stay here for a while when they have nothing to do. Lu Xiaofei said, So that's how it is. Qin Feiyang nodded in understanding. Zhao Shuang'er, this little girl, was really considerate. This is a little niece. Let's go and have a look. White-eyed wolf chuckled and flew to the opposite side. Qin Feiyang smiled and walked over with Lu Xiaofei and his sister. White-eyed wolf said, "Little girl, what are you doing?" The little girl was startled by the sudden voice. She quickly looked up at White-eyed wolf and Qin Feiyang. "Wolf." The little girl suddenly stood up. Her little face was full of panic. White-eyed wolf showed a smile that he thought was very kind and said, "Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. I am not a bad wolf that eats people." But he did not know that his smile, which he thought was very kind, was fierce in the eyes of the little girl. "Daddy, there is a wolf," she shouted and stepped back. "Get out of the way." Qin Feiyang pushed White-eyed wolf away, landed in front of the little girl, and said with a smile, "Don't be afraid. We are really not bad people." The little girl was still panicking, but suddenly, she stared at Qin Feiyang's face and then looked at the statue in the middle of the lake. Why did this uncle in front of her look so similar to the statue? Qin Feiyang said with a smile, "You should know who I am." "You are Uncle Qin?" The little girl blinked her big eyes and asked. "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded and walked up with a smile. "Don't come over. My daddy said that Uncle Qin went outside. You are definitely not him. How dare you pretend to be Uncle Qin? Just you wait. When Daddy comes out, he will beat you up. Daddy, come out quickly. There are bad people." The little girl hurriedly shouted. Qin Feiyang was stunned. White-eyed wolf walked to Qin Feiyang's side and muttered, "This little girl is quite cautious. This shows that Ling Yunfei and Zhao Shuang'er taught her well. Children should be like this, lest they encounter real bad people and suffer a big loss." Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Boom! Suddenly, a terrifying divine power erupted from the bottom of the lake. "Who bullied my daughter?" Following closely, accompanied by a roar, a young man with his upper body exposed rushed out of the lake, holding a 2-meter-long fish in his hand. The big fish was still struggling desperately. As soon as this person appeared, he looked at White-eyed wolf and Qin Feiyang with a cold light flashing in his eyes. "Daddy, it's them." The little girl pointed at Qin Feiyang and the others. "Not only did you break into my house, but you also bullied my daughter. You are fucking courting death." Ling Yunfei let out a loud roar as his surging divine might pounced towards Qin Feiyang and the others. "Little Ling, I haven't seen you for a few hundred years. Your temper is getting worse." White-eyed wolf smiled and slowly turned around to look at Ling Yunfei. This voice, Ling Yunfei was stunned. When White-eyed wolf completely turned around, Ling Yunfei's expression suddenly froze. "Wolf pup? Are you surprised? Are you surprised?" White-eyed wolf grinned. "Damn it, what's going on? Why is White-eyed wolf here?" Ling Yunfei was confused. At this time, Qin Feiyang and Lu Xiaofei also turned to look at Ling Yunfei. Looking at the three of them, especially Qin Feiyang, Ling Yunfei was completely stunned. "Uncle Ling, you didn't even recognize me. I'm so sad." Lu Xiaofei shook his head and sighed. "Xiaofei, Xiaojia." Ling Yunfei looked at Lu Xiaofei, Lu Xiaojia, and finally looked at Qin Feiyang and White-eyed wolf. "Your sister, you're not dreaming, right?" Qin Feiyang said with a smile. "Is this your reaction when you meet an old friend?" Ling Yunfei's body trembled. "Isn't this the voice of that bastard?" White-eyed wolf said helplessly. "I say, how long are you going to be stunned?" Ling Yunfei glanced at White-eyed wolf, and then looked at Qin Feiyang and Lu Xiaofei as if to confirm. Hey, I'm talking to you. Can you give me some reaction?" White-eyed wolf was speechless. Ling Yunfei quivered and hurriedly said, "Wait a minute." After that, he threw the big fish in his hand and took out his cosmos bag. Qin Feiyang and the others looked at him suspiciously. After a while, Ling Yunfei took out a Heaven's Eye stone from his cosmos bag and looked at them, saying, "Let's verify your identities first." Qin Feiyang and the others were stunned. Lu Xiaofei said discontentedly, "Uncle Ling, you're too much. Cut the crap. Hurry up." Ling Yunfei shouted. Okay. Lu Xiaofei nodded and held the Heaven's Eye stone in his hand. Ling Yunfei stared at the Heaven's Eye stone. After a while, there was no reaction from the Heaven's Eye stone. Lu Xiaofei handed the Heaven's Eye stone to Lu Xiaojia. "It's really troublesome. White-eyed wolf shook his head and a terrifying aura burst out. Immediately after, the golden beast shadow of the fighting soul roared out. Ling Yunfei suddenly raised his head and looked at the golden beast shadow in a daze. That's right. This was the fighting soul of the wolf cub. Damn, when did you guys come back? When he came back to his senses, Ling Yunfei was immediately overjoyed and ran to Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf and asked, "You don't doubt it now?" White-eyed wolf pursed his lips and kept his fighting soul. Ling Yunfei hugged White-eyed wolf's neck and laughed. "Brother wolf, who can impersonate your fighting soul?" "Of course." White-eyed wolf smiled proudly and said helplessly, "But you kid, you're too cautious. Isn't this too sudden?" "Of course, I have to confirm it." Ling Yunfei laughed. Hee. White-eyed wolf also grinned and put his arm around Ling Yunfei's shoulder, saying, "How have you been these years? Do you miss your brother?" "Of course." Ling Yunfei nodded, his face full of smiles. Chapter 2786. At least you have a little conscience, the white-eyed wolf said. Ling Yunfei said, "Just kidding. After all, we are brothers who have gone through fire and water, right?" "Yes. Good brother." The white-eyed wolf nodded. When Ling Yunfei heard the words good brother, his eyes couldn't help but turn red. But after all, he was a man and could control his inner emotions. He let go of the white-eyed wolf and looked at Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong also looked at Ling Yunfei. Suddenly, the two of them smiled at the same time with tacit understanding, opened their arms, and gave a big bear hug. Ling Yunfei said, "Welcome back." "Thank you." Qin Feiyong smiled slightly. Although it was only a simple sentence, they could feel the other party's joy and sincerity. Between brothers, there was no need to say anything more. The little girl next to them looked at the two of them and asked, "Daddy, is he really Uncle Qin?" Ling Yunfei walked in front of the little girl and carried her up. He smiled and said, "Let me introduce you. This is Qin Feiyong, Uncle Qin, whom Daddy often talks about." "Uncle Qin, hello?" The little girl was very obedient, very sensible, and very likable. Ling Yunfei looked at Qin Feiyong again and said, "She is my daughter, 5.5 years old this year. What do you think? She looks like her mother." "Yes. I was wondering why this little girl looked so familiar. It turns out that it is because of Shuang-er." Qin Feiyong suddenly patted his head. This little girl really looked like Zhao Shuang-er. "Little girl, hello?" Qin Feiyong's face was full of smiles as he gently pinched the little girl's cheek. The little girl said, "Uncle Qin, you are more handsome than the statue." "Is that so?" "I think so too." Qin Feiyong looked at the statue in the middle of the lake and laughed. "I haven't seen you for hundreds of years. How did you become narcissistic? You weren't like this before. Besides, no matter how handsome you are, can you compare to me?" Ling Yunfei spoke in disdain. After that, he glanced at the little girl and smiled. "Yin-er, tell me, who is more handsome, Daddy or Uncle Qin?" Qin Feiyong also looked at the little girl and said, "Children shouldn't lie. You have to tell the truth." The little girl looked at Ling Yunfei and then looked at Qin Feiyong. She rolled her black eyes and giggled. "Daddy and Uncle Qin are both handsome." "Ha ha." Qin Feiyong and Qin Haodong immediately burst into laughter. "What a mischievous little girl." The white-eyed wolf asked, "Little Ling, what's my niece's name?" "Ling Xiaoyan." Ling Yunfei said. The white-eyed wolf stood up and looked at Ling Xiaoyan. He chuckled and said, "Yin-er, come, call me Uncle Wolf. Uncle Wolf will give you candy." Mommy said that children shouldn't eat candy. Otherwise, their teeth will rot. Tiny Tot shook her head. The white-eyed wolf was taken aback. However, Mommy also said that children should be polite. "Although you look a little fierce, you are Daddy and Uncle Qin's friend, so I should call you Uncle Qin." "Hello, Uncle Wolf." Tiny Tot greeted him affectionately. What a lovely girl. The way she called him Uncle Wolf melted the white-eyed wolf's heart. In particular, her innocent and romantic smile seemed to have the ability to heal the soul. The white-eyed wolf stretched out his paw and said, "Little Qin Zi, give me the soul-calming divine pearl." Qin Feiyong was stunned. "Give it to me," the white-eyed wolf urged. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. He understood what the white-eyed wolf meant. He took out the soul-calming divine pearl, erased the blood contract, and handed it to the white-eyed wolf. The white-eyed wolf said with a smile, "Yin, come here. This is Uncle Wolf's gift to you." This, Tiny Tot looked at Ling Yunfei hesitantly. Ling Yunfei said with a smile, "It's a gift from Uncle Wolf. It'll be a waste if you don't take it." Hee hee. Tiny Tot smiled, took the soul-calming divine pearl and said, "Thank you, Uncle Wolf. You're welcome." The white-eyed wolf was also beaming with joy. "Uncle Wolf, this is unfair. My sister and I took the initiative to ask you for a gift before you gave it to us." Lu Xiaofei pursed his lips. "Is it funny? You're jealous of a child. Besides, Yen is also your sister," the white-eyed wolf said angrily. Hee hee. Lu Xiaofei laughed dryly and walked in front of Tiny Tot. He rubbed Tiny Tot's head and said with a smile, "Yen, do you still remember me?" "You are?" Tiny Tot looked at him suspiciously. "I'm your big brother Xiaofei." "And her?" Lu Xiaofei pulled Lu Xiaojia over and said, "She's your big sister Xiaojia. When you were born, we even came to see you." "Big brother, big sister, hello?" Tiny Tot called out sensibly again. In fact, she had no impression at all, because the last time Lu Xiaofei and his sister came to see her was when she was 2 years old. A 2-year-old child had no memory at all. "Good girl." Lu Xiaofei smiled slightly, looked at Ling Yunfei, and asked, "Where's Auntie?" "Your auntie and the others went to buy groceries," Ling Yunfei said with a smile. Lu Xiaofei laughed and said, "Could it be that Auntie knew that we would come, so she started preparing in advance?" "In your dreams. We plan to stay here for a while." Ling Yunfei rolled his eyes at him. "It turns out that I was thinking too much." Lu Xiaofei shook his head in disappointment. "Brat." Ling Yunfei knocked his head, looked at Lu Xiaojia, and said with a smile, "I haven't seen you for a few years. Xiaojia's grown so tall." Lu Xiaojia giggled and said, "Little sister Yin is also so big." "Yeah, time passes so quickly." Ling Yunfei sighed, then looked at Qin Feiyong and said, "What about you? Did you and the mermaid princess have a good relationship? Can you guys stop talking about this?" Qin Feiyong was speechless. Ling Yunfei snorted and said, "Aren't we concerned about you? You don't know what's good for you." "I thank you for your concern." Qin Feiyong shook his head helplessly. "All right, let's not stand here. Let's go sit in the courtyard over there." Ling Yunfei smiled, carried Tiny Tot, and walked along the path to the opposite side. "Little Ling, you guys have taken good care of this place," White-Eyed Wolf said. "It has nothing to do with me. I don't have the time to do this. It's Schwanger. She comes here to clean every few days. She really has nothing to do." Ling Yunfei pursed his lips. Qin Feiyong and White-Eyed Wolf looked at each other and could not help but shake their heads and laugh. He had a sharp tongue but a soft heart. This guy was the perfect example. Very soon, a group of people came to the courtyard. Ling Yunfei pushed open the door of the courtyard. There were many flowers planted in the courtyard, and the fragrance assailed their nostrils. There was a stone table next to it. It was simple, but when they walked into the courtyard, they felt very at ease. "Do whatever you want. Don't stand on ceremony." Ling Yunfei put down the little girl and greeted. But just as he finished speaking, the little girl raised her head and looked at Ling Yunfei, correcting, "Daddy, are you mistaken? This is Uncle Qin's home. If you want to say don't be polite, it should be Uncle Qin who says that to us, because we are the guests." Ling Yunfei was stunned. Qin Feiyong, White-Eyed Wolf, Lu Xiaofei and his sister were also stunned little girls. "Haha." Ling Yunfei smiled awkwardly and said, "Look at my memory. After living here for so long, I thought it was my own home." Qin Feiyong shook his head and laughed, looking at the little girl and said, "Yen, this is not only Uncle Qin's home, but also your home, do you know?" "Yes." Mother said the same thing. The little girl nodded. "Then go and play." Qin Feiyong rubbed the little girl's head, his face full of love. "Okay." The little girl nodded, holding the soul-calming divine pearl, ran to the side, and played with it curiously. Ling Yunfei sat at the stone table and asked, "Wine or tea?" "Tea." Qin Feiyong smiled slightly. "You, after so many years, You still have a soft spot for tea. Ling Yunfei shook his head, took out a tea set, and began to make tea. How does it feel to have such a cute daughter? Qin Feiyong asked with a smile. Cute? Ling Yunfei was stunned and shook his head. It's so annoying. Although he said that, his eyes were full of love when he glanced at the little girl. If it's so annoying, then give it to us. Little sister Yin is so obedient. Mother and father will definitely spoil her. Lu Xiaofei teased. Ling Yunfei immediately glared at Lu Xiaofei and said, Boy, are you itching for a beating? If you want a sister, go and ask your father and mother to have another one. Isn't there a ready-made one? Why bother? Lu Xiaofei said with a smile. Ling Yunfei's face darkened. He raised his arm and made a punching gesture. Do you believe that I won't beat you up? Hee. Lu Xiaofei laughed. Ling Yunfei shook his head, poured tea, and looked at Qin Feiyong and said with a smile, I really didn't want to have a child before. I felt that having a child was troublesome, but since this little girl was born, I think it's quite interesting. Then continue to work hard. I heard from Aunt Shui in the Butterfly Valley this morning that Aunt Luji wants you to have another fat boy, Qin Feiyong said with a smile. Don't. Ling Yunfei hurriedly waved his hand and said, One is enough. If another one comes, I will be worried to death. What are you worried about? Qin Feiyong was suspicious. You're a bachelor. You don't understand the hardships of raising a child at all. It's useless to tell you. Ling Yunfei shook his head in disdain. You just got married and had a child before me. Look at you being so arrogant. Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes. So? Not convinced? Then hurry up and have one for me to see. Ling Yunfei looked at Qin Feiyong provocatively. Qin Feiyong shook his head and smiled bitterly. He could only be convinced. Ling Yunfei frowned and said, Speaking of which, only the two of you came back? Where are the others? They are all in the Black Tortoise world. Qin Feiyong did not hide it. After all, they were all young people, so he could understand. Ling Yunfei was stunned, shook his head and said with a smile, All right, now that I know why they are hiding in the Black Tortoise world, I won't force them. When do you plan to leave? I'm not sure yet. Qin Feiyong shook his head. Ling Yunfei picked up the teacup, took a sip, and said with a sly smile, Then I wish you a peaceful death. A peaceful death? Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf heard this, and their faces instantly darkened. Wasn't this a blessing for the dead? Bastard! The man and the wolf glared at Ling Yunfei fiercely. He was already a father, but he was still so unruly. A leopard cannot change its spots. This saying was indeed true. Chapter 2787. Ling Yunfei smiled and asked, How have you been these years? What do you think? Qin Feiyong asked. The ancient world. Ling Yunfei murmured and shook his head. How can I have a good life in such a place? Yes, I've been on tenterhooks every day. I also want to end it as soon as possible. Qin Feiyong sighed. He didn't hide anything from Ling Yunfei. Just like Lu Zheng and Lu Hong, they were all young people who had experienced many life and death disasters. Their mental endurance was stronger than the older generation. Of course, it wasn't that the older generation hadn't seen much of the world. It was because the older generation cared too much about them. There was a good saying, caring makes you confused. End it as soon as possible? Then you should work hard. After all, you are different from us. You were born with a different fate. Ling Yunfei said with a smile, Why is my fate different from others? Qin Feiyong was speechless. Aren't you talking nonsense? The castle and Chang Shui were born together. How can it be the same as us? Ling Yunfei rolled his eyes. Qin Feiyong smiled bitterly. He couldn't refute. Mom, Grandma, suddenly, the little girl's voice sounded. Qin Feiyong was slightly stunned. He hurriedly turned his head and saw the little girl looking at the entrance. Her little face was full of joy. Qin Feiyong also looked and saw two women coming this way. One of them was about 20 years old. She was wearing a white dress. Her black hair was like a waterfall. She looked elegant and refined. That's right. She was Zhao Shuanger. The other woman was about 37 or 38 years old. She was also dressed very simply. And she was Ling Yunfei's mother, Lu Ji. After the catastrophe, Her son got married and had children. She was in a good mood. Compared with her previous haggard appearance, she was glowing. Mom, Grandma. The little girl skipped and ran over to her. Yenner. Both mother and daughter-in-law were holding 2 large bags filled with daily necessities. Seeing the little girl run over, Zhao Shuanger put down the bag in her hand and picked up the little girl. She smiled and said, "Did you listen to your father?" "Yes." The little girl nodded. "Yen is the best." Lu Ji also had a doting look on her face. "He." The little girl smiled. Zhao Shuanger suddenly noticed the soul-setting divine pearl in the little girl's hand and asked suspiciously, "Yenner, what is this pearl in your hand?" "I think it's called soul-calming divine pearl. It's a gift from Uncle Qin and Uncle Lang." The little girl said, "Soul-anchoring divine pearl?" Zhao Shuanger was stunned. Just by hearing the name, she felt that it was extraordinary. "Wait." Suddenly, Zhao Shuanger frowned and asked, "What Uncle Qin? What wolf uncle?" The little girl pointed to the courtyard by the lake and said, "It's Uncle Qin and Uncle Wolf sitting in the courtyard." Hearing that, Zhao Shuanger raised her head and looked over suspiciously. She saw a familiar face looking at her at that moment. Qin Feiyang? At that moment, Zhao Shuanger's body stiffened. "What's wrong?" Lu Ji looked at Zhao Shuanger doubtfully and also looked toward the courtyard. Her expression suddenly froze. "Wasn't this that kid?" Ling Yunfei said. "What are you doing there? Come here quickly." The mother and daughter-in-law came back to their senses, hurriedly grabbed the bag, carried the little girl, and walked toward the courtyard. In their hearts, they were nervous and expectant. Qin Feiyang's appearance was too sudden, causing them to wonder if they were hallucinating. At the same time, they were also hoping that it was not an illusion. "Feiyang, is it really you?" Walking into the courtyard, the mother and daughter-in-law put down the little girl in the bag, then ran to Qin Feiyang and looked up and down at Qin Feiyang. "Auntie, it's me." Qin Feiyang looked at Lu Ji and nodded, then looked at Zhao Shuanger and said with a smile, "It's only been a few hundred years. Even I can't recognize you?" "No, you came back too suddenly this time. There was no news at all," Zhao Shuanger said. "Otherwise, how can it be called a surprise?" The white-eyed wolf next to her grinned. Zhao Shuanger looked at the white-eyed wolf. Looking at that familiar smirk and those familiar eyes, a smile gradually crept onto her face. She was finally sure that this was not a dream. Zhao Shuanger looked at the man and the wolf and said with a smile, "Welcome back." "Thank you." Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled. "Child, have you been well these years outside?" Lu Ji stepped forward and grabbed Qin Feiyang's hand. Like a mother, her face was full of love. "Look at my strong appearance. You can tell that I must have been well." Qin Feiyang said with a smile, "Do you think Auntie doesn't know you? Since childhood, you have been more sensible than your peers. No matter what pressure you encounter, you bear it by yourself. You never tell us because you don't want us to worry." Lu Ji said. "Ha!" Qin Feiyang laughed dryly. "Fine. If you don't want to say, Auntie won't force you. However, no matter what happened outside, now that you are home, all the troubles can be put down first." Lu Ji said. "Thank you for your concern, Auntie." Qin Feiyang was touched. "Silly child, there is no need to thank me. Well, you young people talk first. I will make some white fungus soup for you to try." Lu Ji looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Thank you, Auntie." Qin Feiyang smiled. "You were just being polite." Lu Ji helplessly glared at Qin Feiyang, and then took 4 big bags into the backyard. "How is it? This old mother is good to you, right?" Ling Yunfei said. "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. Whether it was Luo Qianxue or Lu Ji, they all treated him as their own child. This was a treatment that others did not have. So in this world, no one was happier than him. Seeing that Lu Ji and Zhao Shuanger ignored him from beginning to end, Lu Xiaofei shook his head and sighed. "Sister, we seem to be ignored again. You are so talkative." Lu Xiaojia rolled her eyes at him. Zhao Shuanger looked at the brother and sister and said, "Who dares to ignore you? Aren't we happy? We don't have time to care about you." Okay. You adults talk slowly. I will help Grandma Lu Ji." Grandma Lu Ji's white fungus soup is the best in the world. Lu Xiaofei smiled. got up and ran to the backyard. I will go too. Wait for me. Lu Xiaojia hurriedly shouted. These two little ones. Zhao Shuanger shook her head and smiled. She looked at Qin Feiyang and said, they must have been following you all the time. That's right. I can't drive them away. Qin Feiyang smiled. This is normal. They have admired you since they were young. Especially Xiaofei. This child has always regarded you as his idol and goal. Zhao Shuanger said. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, then he has to work harder. Zhao Shuanger was stunned. She looked at Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf and asked curiously, what cultivation have you reached now? She couldn't see through the strength of these two guys at all. I said you don't know. The white-eyed wolf said proudly, if you don't tell me, how will I know? Zhao Shuanger was speechless. The white-eyed wolf asked, have you heard of the ninth heaven realm? The ninth heaven realm? Zhao Shuanger was stunned and shook her head. No, that's right. Anyway, with the strength of little Qin Zi and I now, we can kill any of you in seconds. The white-eyed wolf smiled proudly. Even Uncle Yuan and the snow python can be killed in seconds? Zhao Shuanger asked. Of course. They are just half-step divine lords. Compared with us, the gap is like heaven and earth. The white-eyed wolf said. It can't be. Zhao Shuanger was shocked. In her opinion, half-step divine lords were already very powerful, but she didn't expect that Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf's current cultivation were even stronger than half-step divine lords. Jealous. The white-eyed wolf chuckled. Zhao Shuanger couldn't help laughing and said, what's there to be jealous of? No matter how strong they are, can they live a peaceful and stable life like us? The white-eyed wolf was stunned and pursed his lips. We don't have any pursuits. It's not that we don't have pursuits. It's just that what we pursue is different. You can ask Qin Feiyang. Doesn't he yearn for the life we have now? Unfortunately, this kind of life is still far away from him. Zhao Shuanger smiled. Yes, it's still far away. Qin Feiyang nodded. Frankly speaking, although he was very strong, he was really envious of everyone's current life. Life should be like this. But to him, it was simply an extravagant hope. So this time, when he came back, he had to cherish this rare time. Where are the others? Zhao Shuanger asked. Qin Feiyang laughed. In the Black Tortoise realm, they don't plan to come out. All right, then let's not disturb them. Zhao Shuanger smiled slightly, apparently understanding everyone's feelings. Then, she looked at the soul-calming pearl in the little girl's hand and said suspiciously, this should be a divine artifact. And Qin Feiyang nodded. You guys are spoiling her too much. Why would a child give her a divine artifact? Zhao Shuanger said unhappily. It's fine. This divine artifact doesn't have any killing power. Its only function is to protect the divine soul. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Protect the divine soul? Zhao Shuanger was stunned. That's right. The soul-calming pearl is a supreme-level divine artifact. Although Yin has not reached the war god level and her soul has not evolved into a divine soul, it can still protect her soul. With the soul-calming pearl protecting Yin-Er's soul, even the white-eyed wolf and I can't hurt her. Qin Feiyang laughed. Supreme-level divine artifact, Zhao Shuanger muttered. What level of divine artifact was this? In short, this soul-calming pearl is very precious. Even in the ancient world, it's rare. Qin Feiyang said, since it's so precious, then keep it for yourself to save your life in the future. Yen quickly return it to Uncle Qin. Zhao Shuanger said. The little girl was slightly stunned. She raised her head and looked at Zhao Shuanger, saying, but mother, I really like it. You can't do this, Zhao Shuanger reprimanded. It's really fine. I basically don't need it now, so let her play with it. We'll talk about it later. This is also a token of appreciation from the white-eyed wolf and I for this little niece. Qin Feiyang laughed. Then, all right. Zhao Shuanger hesitated for a while, nodded with a smile, then looked down at the little girl and said, Yen quickly thank Uncle Qin and Uncle Wolf. Thank you, Uncle Qin. Thank you, Uncle Wolf. The little girl looked at the two and smiled sweetly. Good girl. Qin Feiyang laughed and couldn't help but pinch her little face. Chapter 2788. Ling Yunfei watched this scene with a smile and didn't speak from beginning to end, because he didn't care about any greeting gifts at all. As long as Qin Feiyong could come back safely, that was more important than anything else. Zhao Shuang smiled and said, Yin endure the pain. Mother will drip blood for you. Okay. The little girl nodded. Zhao Shuang urged a wisp of divine power and gently scratched the little girl's fingertip. A bloody wound appeared. Immediately, a drop of blood fell on the soul-anchoring pearl. After the blood merged with the soul-anchoring pearl, Zhao Shuang looked at the little girl and said with a smile, Now you only need to think about it, and the soul-anchoring pearl will enter your body. Really? The little girl asked in surprise, and Zhao Shuang nodded. The little girl stared at the soul-anchoring pearl. With a thought, the soul-anchoring pearl immediately turned into a stream of light and disappeared between her eyebrows. It's so fun. The little girl suddenly became playful. She put it away for a while and took it out for a while, playing with it happily. Ling Yunfei shook his head and smiled, looked at Qin Feiyong and said, The children of this generation are so happy. Happy? Qin Feiyong was stunned. See, they were born carefree, as long as they have fun. Unlike us, who suffered thousands of disasters and struggled painfully. Especially the few of us children. They were born to enjoy treatment that others don't have. Because of our relationship, no matter where they go, they are respected. For example, now you give this little girl a divine artifact. Even in the entire Great Qin Empire, a divine artifact is a supreme item. But now, you are playing with this little girl like a toy. Isn't this happier than us? Ling Yunfei said with a smile. Qin Feiyong smiled slightly and said, This confirms the old saying, the predecessors plant trees, the descendants enjoy the shade. Ling Yunfei shook his head and said, But living in such an environment may not be a good thing for them. That depends on how you educate them. We are all people who have been through this before. We know how dangerous it is to be a hedonistic son of rich parents. Thus, we cannot allow our descendants to walk the path of hedonistic sons. Even more so, we cannot let them be like the other martial marquises, living under the protection and light of their ancestors. Qin Feiyong said, Yes. Ling Yunfei nodded and said with a smile, But for now, our children like Lu Xiaofei, Lu Xiaojia, and Situ Feiyong are all okay. I can see that too. Now, there's only Fatso and Li Yan's child. I haven't seen it yet. Qin Feiyong said. This kid's personality is similar to his father's. Although he's a little shameless, he has a good heart. Ling Yunfei smiled. Haha, Qin Feiyong couldn't help but laugh. Like father, like son. Zhao Shuang suddenly looked at Ling Yunfei and frowned. Where's the fish I asked you to catch? Fish? Ling Yunfei was slightly stunned and suddenly patted his head. He hurriedly looked at Zhao Shuang and said with a flattering smile, My wife, I'm sorry. I just saw Qin Feiyong and I was a little excited. So, then what are you still waiting for? Zhao Shuang said. Yes, I'll go right away. Ling Yunfei quickly got up and ran to the lake. This kid is really henpecked. White-eyed Wolf snickered. That's good. Qin Feiyong smiled. The tremella soup is here. After a while, Lu Ji came out with a small pot. Lu Xiaofei and Lu Xiaojia followed behind with bowls and spoons. It smells good. Qin Feiyong's eyes lit up. I'm not bragging. Grandma Lu Ji's tremella soup is really delicious. Lu Xiaofei said, How can it be so exaggerated? It's just some pollen. Lu Ji shook her head, filled a bowl, and handed it to Qin Feiyong, saying, Here, try it. Thank you, Auntie. Qin Feiyong took the small bowl, took a spoon, and took a bite. The taste was really good. It was sweet but not greasy, with a little floral fragrance. Where's Yunfei? Lu Ji looked around and asked suspiciously. He was driven by his wife to catch fish. White-eyed Wolf laughed. Lu Ji shook her head and then sat opposite Qin Feiyong, looking at Qin Feiyong lovingly. Dong. Soon, Ling Yunfei rushed out of the lake with a big fish and landed in front of the yard. Seeing that everyone was eating, he said unhappily, Why didn't you wait for me? Why should I wait for you? Lu Ji rolled her eyes at him. My dear mother, I'm your son. Ling Yunfei cried sadly. And then? Lu Ji looked at him in amusement. Ling Yunfei said unhappily, shouldn't you be nicer to me? Am I not good to you? I cook for you all day, wash your clothes, and take care of your children. Don't be discontent. Lu Ji rolled her eyes. Ling Yunfei mumbled, that's because you forced us to give birth to her. You're right, aren't you? Then from today onwards, you'll starve. Lu Ji said. No, no, no. I was wrong. I was wrong. Mother, please forgive me. Ling Yunfei waved his hands repeatedly. Qin Feiyang looked at this scene, his face full of envy and desire. What a wonderful life. Everyone sat together and chatted for a while. Lu Ji looked at the sky, got up, and said with a smile, Yunfei, wash the fish later. I'll cook some dishes for you too tonight. Okay. Ling Yunfei nodded. Auntie, don't be busy. I've already told my sister and the others that we'll gather at Butterfly Valley tonight. Qin Feiyang smiled. Butterfly Valley? Lu Ji was stunned. The more the merrier. Qin Feiyang said. It seems that I haven't visited them for a long time. Okay, I'll go and prepare. Bring this fish with you too. After Lu Ji said that, she got up and cleaned the table, then went to the backyard to get busy. Ling Yunfei leaned over to Qin Feiyang and whispered, You've already met Ren Wushuang and the others? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Ling Yunfei said with a sneaky smile, Don't you feel particularly stunned when you see them now? Particularly stunned? Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and asked suspiciously, What do you mean? Damn, it's been hundreds of years. Why are you still like a piece of wood? If you continue like this, you'll definitely be single forever. Ling Yunfei shook his head in disdain. Qin Feiyang was stunned, but then he understood Ling Yunfei's meaning. He said speechlessly, I don't think you've changed. You still like to fool around like a white-eyed wolf. Is this fooling around? You really don't understand at all. What a good woman. I feel pity for you. Ling Yunfei shook his head. Pity? Then do you want me to give them to you? Zhao Shuanger couldn't help but keep quiet. But when she heard the last sentence, she couldn't help but smile at Ling Yunfei and ask, Give them to me? Okay. Ling Yunfei instinctively replied. But as soon as he finished speaking, he realized that something was wrong and quickly looked at Zhao Shuanger. You bastard. I didn't expect you to have feelings for Sister Ling, and the others. See how I'll deal with you today. Zhao Shuanger flipped out. Ling Yunfei naturally didn't have a good time. He kept begging his wife for mercy. I can see that the one who is most afraid of his wife is this guy. White-eyed Wolf leaned over to Qin Feiyang's ear and whispered, You have to control him like this. Otherwise, with his personality, it's hard to guarantee that he won't cause any trouble. Qin Feiyang was gloating the whole time. In the evening, the sky gradually darkened. The night of February was still a little cold. However, the atmosphere in Butterfly Valley was warm and comfortable. By the lake, a bonfire was burning, illuminating all directions. Above the bonfire, a goat was being roasted. It was crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. One could smell the fragrance of roasted meat from afar. There was also a pot of fish soup stewing beside it. It was very fresh and fragrant. Just smelling it made one drool. Qin Feiyang, White-Eyed Wolf, Lu Xiaofei and his sister, Ling Yunfei and his family, Old Man Ren, Old Man Feng, Old Man Yi, Jiang Jingyi and his wife, Yin Nanshan and his wife. There was also Ren Wushuang, Luo Qingzhu, Feng Ling Er. Everyone gathered around the bonfire, eating meat and drinking wine. They laughed and cheered, presenting a jubilant scene. This was destined to be a sleepless night, especially Qin Feiyang and the other young people. They chatted for the whole night. There were joys and sorrows. It's hard to find a confidant in life. For our rare friendship, cheers. The next morning, the gathering finally ended. This celestial immortal wine is really the best. Do you have any more? Can you give me some? Ling Yunfei hugged a wine jar. There was still half of it left. He looked at Qin Feiyang and laughed. I do have some, but if you ask him for more, he will definitely fall out with me on the spot. Qin Feiyang shook his head. For what this celestial immortal wine was his life. Stingy. Ling Yunfei pursed his lips. Drink, drink, drink. Sooner or later, You'll die from drinking. Zhao Shuang'er glared at Ling Yunfei. If I die from drinking, won't you be a widow? Ling Yunfei laughed. Zhao Shuang'er rolled her eyes at him. She looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, Where are you going next? Let's go to the Forgotten Continent to take a look. Qin Feiyang smiled. Yinwei and his Sky Tiger tribe are in the 1st District. Wang Yangfeng and the Wang clan are also in the 1st District, Zhao Shuang'er said. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He asked suspiciously, Why did Wang Yangfeng and the others go to the Forgotten Continent? Back in the ancient pagoda, weren't they neighbors with the Sky Tiger tribe? As time passed, their relationship deepened. So after you left, Wang Yangfeng brought the people to the Forgotten Continent and continued to be neighbors with the Sky Tiger tribe. Zhao Shuang'er smiled. Hearing these words, Qin Feiyang's dusty memories resurfaced. Back then in the ancient pagoda, the Sky Tiger tribe and the Wang clan had fought over territory. However, later on, under his deterrence and persuasion, the two sides reconciled. Slowly, the two clans even established a deep friendship. When the Wang clan was mentioned, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but think of Wang Xiaojie. This kid was his only disciple. He wondered how much he had grown. There was also Qin Chun. Qin Chen's original name was Mu Chun. He was a member of the Mu clan. However, because of Mu Qing's wrong decision, the Mu clan was destroyed. Therefore, he hated the Mu clan to the core. Chapter 2789. Back then, Mu Chun was bullied by the disciples of the Mu family and happened to run into him. Hence, he kindly helped him and changed Mu Chen's name to Qin Chen. From then on, he would be his shadow, which was also his assassin. Although Qin Chun did not perform amazingly in the past few years, and being Qin Feiyang's shadow had become an empty promise, Qin Chun still left a deep impression on Qin Feiyang. Because compared to Wang Xiaojie, Qin Chun seemed more mature and steady. Moreover, Qin Chen was also forced by Mu Qing to take the spiritual disaster pill, and his cultivation was crippled. He had the same experience as Qin Feiyang. Apart from Wang Xiaojie and Qin Chun, there was also a woman who left a deep impression on Qin Feiyang. This woman was Wang Jin. Wang Jin was Wang Xiaojie's sister and also had a tragic experience. Her virginity was ruined. Later on, it was also Qin Feiyang who saved her. It was also because of this that Wang Jin developed feelings of admiration for Qin Feiyang. However, she was rejected by Qin Feiyang. It was not that he despised Wang Jin for losing her virginity, but because apart from the mermaid princess, he really could not accept any other woman. Of course, there were more old friends in Forgotten Continent. There was also Mr. Hao, who hated him, Wang Yuer, who loved and hated him, Gongsun Bei, Wang Ziqing, Barbarian Bull, and so on. Finally, there was a man, Pei Yi. Pei Yi was from the Divine Python tribe and had long become the chief of the Divine Python tribe. Qin Feiyang admired this person. Although he was about the same age as him, in terms of mentality and character, he was more open-minded than anyone else. Qin Feiyang still remembered that the chief of the Divine Python tribe at that time was Pei Yi's biological uncle, and Pei Yi's father was killed by his biological uncle. At that time, Qin Feiyang found out the truth and was afraid that Pei Yi would be devastated. Hence, he had been hesitant to tell Pei Yi. However, when he found Pei Yi, he found out that Pei Yi had already known the truth long ago. He just did not hide it in his heart. Moreover, even when faced with this truth, he did not go crazy like other people, nor did he hate his uncle. With such a temperament, even Qin Feiyang felt ashamed of his inferiority. Back then, he even took the initiative to give Pei Yi some potential pills and potential pills. Pei Yi was probably the first outsider to make Qin Feiyang willingly give out those pills to him. Clearly, he admired Pei Yi a lot. Who? Qin Feiyang took a deep breath, looked at everyone and said with a smile, Then I'll go to the Forgotten Continent first. When will you be back? Don't run back to the ancient world without saying a word, Ling Yunfei said. How is this possible? Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. After pondering for a while, he said, I might stay for a few hundred years. Hundreds of years? That's great. Everyone was stunned for a moment before they were pleasantly surprised. But I can't be sure. What if something unexpected happens midway? Qin Feiyong said with a smile. All right, hurry up and go. Ling Yunfei waved his hand. When Uncle Yin and the others wake up, let them know. Qin Feiyong said. Okay. Ling Yunfei and the others nodded. Qin Feiyong waved his hand and swept up the white-eyed wolf and Lu Xiaofei, appearing in a stone room. This was the secret room at the bottom of the Butterfly Valley. The teleportation altar that led to the Forgotten Continent sat in the center of the secret room. Qin Feiyong pointed his index finger, and a wisp of divine power fused with the altar. The altar immediately recovered. Forgotten Continent. Glacier Forest. After a few hundred years, this place was still covered in snow. The ice lake had always been there. After all, this was the place where the snow python cultivated. Even if it was destroyed in battle, it could be rebuilt. Heavy snow floated in the sky. The entire world was filled with bone-chilling cold. Swoosh! 3 people and a wolf appeared out of thin air above the ice lake. It was Qin Feiyong and the others. What a familiar scene. Qin Feiyong glanced around and said with a smile, yes. The white-eyed wolf nodded. In the past, they had experienced too many things here. As if they were chased by someone and fled here. As if the snow python was making things difficult for them. It was also here that they killed Mu Tianyang, Mu Tianjun, the demon dragon, and the demon ancestor, and completely ended that catastrophe. Of course, it was also here that the snow python took away the blood of Mu Tianyang and the others and asked Qin Yuan to help them be reborn. Snow python, the white-eyed wolf murmured. Boom! A monstrous divine power burst out like an invisible torrent, crashing into the ice lake below. Crack! The ice lake turned into ashes on the spot. Who dares to be presumptuous here? Accompanied by an angry roar, a huge snow python rushed out of the ice mist. Long time no see. The white-eyed wolf looked at the snow python and joked. You. When the snow python saw Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf, its eyes suddenly widened in disbelief. You must be surprised. The people who went to the ancient world suddenly appeared in front of me. The white-eyed wolf looked at it with a playful expression. Why are you back? The snow python was shocked. Let's talk about this later. Let's settle our old scores first. We will be taken care of by you in the future. The white-eyed wolf waved its claws and a gust of wind suddenly blew. Pieces of snow rose into the air and turned into a giant hand that covered the sky and slapped at the snow python. Bastard! The snow python was furious. It raised its giant tail and slapped at the giant hand. Ant! The white-eyed wolf's eyes were full of disdain. The giant beast formed by the snow slapped at the snow python. The snow python immediately howled and was sent flying. What? So powerful? The snow python was extremely shocked by his unstoppable combat power. Life is full of ups and downs. Are you still going to jump now? The white-eyed wolf looked at her with contempt. The snow python fell silent. It was obvious that the white-eyed wolf had grown to a height that even she could only look up to. Lu Xiaofei and his sister were also shocked when they saw this scene. They also knew the snow python. She was the guardian of the Forgotten Continent. In the entire Great Qin, there was only one person who could fight with the snow python. Qin Yuan. Although their uncle and Uncle Wolf said that with their current strength, they could even kill the snow python in an instant, they did not see it with their own eyes. They still had some doubts. At this moment, when they saw it with their own eyes, they realized that their Uncle Wolf's strength was really terrifying. Back then, we needed your permission to pass through this altar. There was even one time when you almost let little Qin Zi's purple gold dragon blood dry, but after you merged with the purple gold dragon blood, I didn't see you recover your white dragon body. The white-eyed wolf sneered. The snow python said in a deep voice, the curse of the golden small beast can't be broken. You know that too. If it wasn't for you, would Mu Tianyang and the others be reborn? Now I'm going to destroy you. The white-eyed wolf's eyes flashed with killing intent. Qin Feiyong, tell the white-eyed wolf not to go too far. But at this moment, Dong Zhengyang's voice sounded in Qin Feiyong's mind. Obviously, Dong Zhengyang heard the movement outside. One had to know. Dong Zhengyang's previous life was the winged dragon, and he was the snow python's partner. Naturally, He would not allow the white-eyed wolf to hurt the snow python. Qin Feiyang let out a long breath and waved his hand. Dong Zhengyang appeared out of thin air. White-eyed wolf, stop. Dong Zhengyang immediately stood in front of the snow python and stared at the white-eyed wolf angrily. Do I have to stop just because you say so? Do I have to give you face? Well, I also want to see how strong you are now at the peak of the ninth heaven realm. The white-eyed wolf directly activated his fighting soul, and the world was suddenly shrouded in a terrifying pressure. Dong Zhengyang's pupils contracted, and he could not help but look at Qin Feiyang. Forget it. Qin Feiyang sighed. Forget it? The white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows. It's all in the past. What's there to care about? Qin Feiyang shook his head. Okay, you're open-minded, you're magnanimous. The white-eyed wolf snorted and withdrew his fighting soul. After the fighting soul disappeared, the pressure slowly dissipated. At this moment, whether it was the snow python, Lu Xiaofei and his sister, they all felt the threat of death. Uncle Wolf's fighting soul, how terrifying is it? The brother and sister pondered in their hearts. After the fighting soul disappeared, the snow python finally regained its senses, and its eyes immediately locked onto Dong Zhengyang's back. The corner of its eyes could not help but shed a drop of tears. Dong Zhengyang also heaved a sigh of relief. To be honest, he had no confidence to fight with the white-eyed wolf now. Although he was in the castle when he was fighting with the giant beast in hell, he could hear the sounds outside, so he knew the changes in the white-eyed wolf's fighting soul. Now, not only could it deprive the fighting soul, it could also deprive the cultivation. Anyone who faced such a fighting soul would instinctively fear, because depriving the cultivation was more terrifying than depriving the fighting soul. Without the fighting soul, although the battle strength would drop greatly, at least the cultivation would still be there. But if the cultivation was gone, it would all be over. Following closely, Dong Zhengyang slowly turned around, looked at the snow python and smiled. How have you been these years? Good. The snow python nodded its head, and its emotions were like a broken dam, completely uncontrollable. It's been hard on you. Dong Zhengyang stretched out his hand and stroked the snow python's head. No. The snow python shook its head, also enjoying Dong Zhengyang's stroking. Although the winged dragon had taken over Dong Zhengyang's body and became a real human, his love for the snow python had never changed. The snow python asked, How have you been in the ancient world all these years? Pretty good. I met Qin Batian and the others, and with their help, my strength has greatly improved. Now, I'm cultivating in Qin Feiyang's Black Tortoise realm. The time array in the Black Tortoise realm is 1,000 years. I believe that it won't be long before I can break through to the imperishable realm, but unfortunately, I still haven't found a way to break the curse. I'm sorry. Dong Zhengyang lowered his head in self-reproach. It's okay. The snow python shook its head. But don't worry, I will definitely find a way to turn you back into a white dragon. Dong Zhengyang looked at the snow python, and his eyes were filled with determination. I believe. The snow python kept nodding. Curse, Qin Feiyang muttered. For the snow python, Dong Zhengyang stepped into the ancient world without fear of death. As for him, in fact, he also had an old man who was worth him going through fire and water. This old man was Uncle Yuan. There was also a curse on Uncle Yuan's body, and his cultivation would forever be stuck at the half-step Divine Lord level. He also had to think of a way to break this curse for Uncle Yuan. Chapter 2790. Sigh. Qin Feiyang looked deeply at Dong Zhengyang and the snow python and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Then, he looked at the white-eyed wolf and said, Let's go. No matter what, Dong Zhengyang and the snow python's relationship with each other was still worthy of respect. Moreover, other than reviving Mu Tianyang and the demon ancestor, Dong Zhengyang actually didn't do anything too excessive. As for the snow python's previous difficulties, for the current Qin Feiyang, it was just a passing cloud. The white-eyed wolf coldly looked at Dong Zhengyang and the snow python, and finally turned around and left. Lu Xiaofei and his sister followed closely beside the man and the wolf. The snow python looked at the back of Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf and asked, "Are they very strong now?" "Very strong. If they go all out, they can instantly destroy the entire forgotten continent and Great Qin. As for me," Dong Zhenyang laughed bitterly, shook his head and said, "I'm afraid I'll only be killed in an instant." The snow python was shocked. This was too shocking. In short, the current Qin Feiyong is no longer something you and I can control. His target is no longer us insignificant people, but the heavens. Dong Zhengyang pointed to the sky and whispered, "Heavens." The snow python raised its head to look at the sky, and could not help but set off stormy waves in its heart. How many years had it been? Who would have thought that Qin Feiyong had already grown to such an extent? It was too terrifying. "Little Qin Zi, I'm still very unhappy." "No, I'm very unhappy." Above the glacier, the white-eyed wolf snorted coldly. "Take it easy. Just think like that. With your current strength, you can already kill her in an instant. In front of you, she's just an ant. What's there to argue with an ant?" Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. "Ant?" The Lu siblings looked at each other. These two uncles were probably the only people who dared to call the snow pythons ants. The white-eyed wolf was slightly stunned. He grinned and said, "Hearing you say that makes me feel much better." "Haha." Qin Feiyong laughed and asked, "Little Fei, little Jia, where are the Sky Tiger tribe and the Wang clan? Come with us." Lu Xiaofei and his sister ran to the front to lead the way. Very soon, the few of them flew out of the glacier. "What are you doing? Let me go." Suddenly, the sound of quarreling was transmitted to their ears. It was a woman's voice, and there was a hint of anger in it. "What? I only drank some wine, and you actually insulted me in front of everyone. How can a man like me have any face left?" It was a man's voice, and his tone was filled with anger. "You call that a little? Idling around all day, doing nothing but drinking? No matter what, I'm the only woman running around outside. You have the nerve to say that you're a man? I think you don't deserve to be a man at all." The woman's angry voice sounded again. "You still dare to humiliate me?" The man's roar sounded, followed by a loud slap. "There are actually people quarreling." Lu Xiaofei shook his head. Qin Feiyong smiled and said, "Let's go. This sounds like a quarrel between husband and wife." And Lu Xiaofei nodded. The group continued to move forward. But suddenly, Lu Xiaofei was stunned and stopped again. "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyong, the white-eyed wolf, and Lu Xiaojia looked at him suspiciously. Why do the voices of these two people sound a little familiar? Lu Xiaofei frowned. Familiar? Qin Feiyong, the white-eyed wolf, and Lu Xiaojia were stunned. "You dare to hit me?" The woman's angry roar suddenly sounded. "Yes, I'm hitting you." The man laughed angrily, and then another slap sounded. Qin Feiyong was slightly stunned and muttered, "This woman's voice. Why do I suddenly feel a little familiar?" "You also find it familiar?" The white-eyed wolf looked at Qin Feiyong in astonishment, and Qin Feiyong nodded. "If even you find it familiar, then they must be our old friends. Let's go down and have a look," the white-eyed wolf said, and Qin Feiyong nodded. They landed in the forest and walked in the direction of the quarrel. Soon, they were under a big tree in front of them, looking at a man and a woman. The woman was lying on the ground in a sorry state, crying sadly. The man stood aside, looking down at the woman with a sneer on his face. "If I didn't marry you back then, would anyone want a slut like you? You even put on an arrogant attitude all day long, as if it's a blessing that I married you. Who do you think you are?" After the man finished speaking, he bent down and grabbed the woman's hair. He pulled the woman's head up and slapped her face again. "It's her." Seeing the woman's face, Qin Feiyong's gaze suddenly trembled slightly. "I didn't expect it to be her." The white-eyed wolf muttered, obviously also recognizing this woman. "It's them." Lu Xiaofei also whispered, "Brother, you know them?" Lu Xiaojia was suspicious, and Lu Xiaofei nodded. Looking at the man and woman, there was a trace of anger in his eyes, and at the same time, a trace of suspicion. "Then why don't I know them?" Lu Xiaojia was suspicious. "Since you were young, how many times have you been to Forgotten Continent?" Lu Xiaofei rolled his eyes at her. Lu Xiaojia was puzzled. Then who are they? That woman is Brother Jie's sister, Wang Jin. That man is Sister Wang Jin's man, Yin Yun, Lu Xiaofei said. Brother Jie? Lu Xiaojia was stunned. And it's uncle's disciple, Wang Xiaojia. When you were 10 years old, he came to our house. Lu Xiaofei whispered. So it's him. Lu Xiaojia tried hard to recall for a moment and nodded in realization. What's going on? Last time when Situ Feiyang and I went to play, weren't they quite lovey-dovey? Sister Wang Jin and Yin Yun even brought us to their house and personally cooked for us. Lu Xiaofei was puzzled. However, Lu Xiaofei obviously did not notice that Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf's expressions were extremely gloomy. Looking at Wang Jin again, hearing Yin Yun's words, her body suddenly trembled. She looked at Yin Yun in disbelief and asked, "What did you say?" "What did I say? I said that you're a slut. Do you think that everyone doesn't know what happened to you in the village back then? It's just that we don't want to talk about it and hurt your pride." "You're really proud? I married you because I pity you, understand?" Yin Yun sneered. "You scoundrel." Wang Jin suddenly got up like crazy and pounced on Yin Yun. The king of hell sneered and kicked Wang Jin in the stomach. Wang Jin flew out on the spot and curled up on the grass. Her face was full of pain. Damn it! Lu Xiaofei was furious and was about to rush forward. However, at this moment, Qin Feiyang reached out and pulled him. "What's the matter?" Lu Xiaofei was slightly stunned and turned to look at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Qin Feiyang asked, "Have you met them?" "Yes. Once, Situ Feiyang and I went to look for Brother Xiaojia and Yinwei's grandpa to play. We even went to their house to have a meal." Lu Xiaofei nodded. "How's their relationship?" Qin Feiyang asked. "They were very lovey-dovey at that time. Yin Yun also treated Sister Wang Jin very well in front of us, but I don't know why she hit Sister Wang Jin today." Lu Xiaofei frowned. White-eyed Wolf sighed. "I think the love you see is just an act." "An act?" Lu Xiaofei was stunned. "Just watch." White-eyed Wolf did not explain and looked at Yin Yun coldly. Lu Xiaofei suppressed the anger in his heart and looked up at the two of them. "What's wrong?" Lying on the ground and pretending to be pitiful again? Yin Yun walked in front of Wang Jin, her face full of ridicule. Wang Jin held her stomach and looked at Yin Yun. "I was really blind to marry a scum like you back then." "I'm a scum?" Yin Yun laughed loudly repeatedly and said, "Just a rotten thing like you also has the nerve to call me scum?" "Yes, I accept it. I have an unbearable past, but I want to ask you, after marrying you, have I done anything to let you down?" Wang Jin said angrily. Yin Yun sneered. "Who knows if you have done it or not?" "You." Wang Jin's face was filled with despair. Yin Yun said, "Are you going to call me a bastard again?" "You are a bastard to begin with." Wang Jin said angrily. "Haha, yes, I am a bastard. I'm not afraid to tell you the truth. I married you purely because of your brother, Wang Xiaojia." Yin Yun laughed. Wang Jin looked at him suspiciously. "Your brother is Qin Feiyang's disciple. Whether it is the Emperor of Great Qin or our Forgotten Continent's Chief Tower Master Gongsun Bei, he has a deep relationship with them. As long as I marry you, I can naturally rely on this relationship to soar." Yin Yun sneered. "What?" Wang Jin's delicate body trembled. "I also heard that you liked Qin Feiyang. Unfortunately, Qin Feiyang disliked you and rejected you. Tell me the truth. I really admire your courage. With your body that has been violated, you dare to run after Qin Feiyang?" Yin Yun sneered. Wang Jin's face turned pale. She never thought that this man would marry her for benefits. "Don't lie on the ground and pretend to be pitiful. Hurry up and come back with me. Let me tell you, if you dare to speak of today's matter, I will kill you." Yin Yun's eyes flashed with madness. Wang Jin's delicate body trembled again, her face incomparably miserable. Women, no matter what experience, should be respected. Suddenly, a cold voice sounded. "Who?" Yin Yun was shocked and hurriedly looked in the direction of the voice, only to see 3 people and a wolf walking towards them step by step. Lu Xiaofei? When he saw Lu Xiaofei, Yin Yun's gaze suddenly trembled, and he asked in surprise, "Why are you here?" but at the same time. But Wang Jin's gaze was firmly locked onto Qin Feiyang's body. This face, this figure. Wasn't this him? Yin Yuan also saw Qin Feiyang, but he only glanced at him hurriedly and might not have reacted for a moment. You scum! Lu Xiaofei angrily rushed over and slapped Yin Yuan. You actually saw me? Then I'm sorry, even if you have a strong background. I can only kill you to silence you. Killing intent surged in Yin Yuan's eyes, and his aura suddenly erupted. It was the cultivation of a 9-star war saint. Lu Xiaofei was a war master, so he was naturally no match for Yin Yuan. Boom! Lu Xiaofei's entire body was immediately sent flying. His arm shattered on the spot, and his internal organs shattered. Brother! Lu Xiaojia called out, and hurriedly looked at Qin Feiyang and said, Uncle. Chapter 2791. Uncle? Yin Yuan looked at Qin Feiyang again and was about to speak, but suddenly, his expression froze and a trace of bewilderment appeared in his eyes. Bullying a woman and killing her to silence her. I didn't expect there to be such an awe-inspiring person in Forgotten Continent. Qin Feiyang walked over step by step. You are? Yin Yuan stared at Qin Feiyang, his face filled with disbelief. Qin Feiyang said indifferently, Try and see if you can kill me to silence me too. Don't come over. Yin Yuan retreated in fear. Why would this person appear? Didn't he leave Great Qin hundreds of years ago? Weren't you very awe-inspiring when you were bullying a woman just now? What? Have you become a soft-footed shrimp now? Qin Feiyang took a step forward and instantly landed in front of Yin Yuan. Yin Yuan instinctively threw a punch at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang raised his arm and pointed his index finger at Yin Yuan's fist. Immediately, Yin Yuan's fist stopped in the air. What a powerful force! Yin Yuan was shocked. Since you married her, you have to treat her sincerely. With your attitude, calling you a scum is too flattering. You're worse than a scum. Qin Feiyang opened his mouth, and a terrifying force suddenly roared out from his fingertips. Yin Yuan screamed and flew out. His arm was also directly shattered, and flesh and blood splattered everywhere. Serves you right. Lu Xiaofei got up and stared at Yin Yuan in disgust. You're still gloating? Look at yourself. What have you become? Lu Xiaojia rolled her eyes at her brother and took out a regeneration pill. She tiptoed and put it into Lu Xiaofei's mouth. It's just a small injury. Lu Xiaofei chuckled. Qin Feiyang ignored Yin Yuan and turned to Wang Jin. He stopped beside her and smiled. Long time no see. It's really you? Wang Jin asked. Yes. Nodding his head, Qin Feiyang held on to Wang Jin's arm and smiled. Get up. Wang Jin nodded. Just as he was about to get up, he suddenly hugged his stomach and groaned in pain. His face was full of pain. What happened? Qin Feiyang was bewildered. White-eyed Wolf suddenly looked at the ground and shouted, Little Qin Zi, there's blood. Blood? Qin Feiyang was stunned and looked down. There was indeed a large pool of blood on the ground. He took another look. The blood came from Wang Jin's inner thigh. Are you hurt? Qin Feiyang was surprised and quickly took out a healing pill. Wait. Lu Xiaofei hurriedly waved his hand and ran over. He said in shock, Uncle, this doesn't seem to be an injury. What is it? Qin Feiyang looked at him anxiously. It's a miscarriage. Wang Jin said weakly. Miscarriage? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. Yes. I'm already pregnant with his child. Just now, he kicked me in the stomach. It may cause me to miscarry. Wang Jin said. His face was extremely pale. You're already pregnant with his child? Qin Feiyang was stunned. He looked at Lu Xiaofei and said, Then what should we do? How should I know? Lu Xiaofei was speechless. He had never encountered such a thing. Although Qin Feiyang had been through hundreds of battles, it was also the first time he encountered such a thing. For a moment, he was at a loss. Uncle, let's send her home first. Lu Xiaojia said. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. He picked up Wang Jin and looked at Lu Xiaofei, saying, Lead the way. Okay. Lu Xiaofei came to his senses and quickly ran forward. Qin Feiyang glanced at Yin Yuan, who was lying on the side and looking at Wang Jin in shock. A cold light flashed in his eyes and he said, "White-eyed wolf, take him with me." Okay. White-eyed wolf took a step forward and kicked Yin Yun's back. He shouted, "Let's go." Yin Yun came to his senses and looked at White-eyed wolf. He said, "She said that she's already pregnant with my child, right?" And then, White-eyed wolf said, "So, I have a descendant?" Yin Yun murmured, "You don't know? It seems that you're really an irresponsible man. Hurry up, don't force me to make a move." White-eyed wolf shouted. A village was located in a mountain. The village was made up of simple wooden buildings. There were as many as 1,000,000 people in the village. This was where the Sky Tiger tribe and the Wong clan were located. The people of the two tribes were very leisurely. The old people drank tea and chatted outside while sunbathing. The younger generation was training and hunting in the surrounding mountains. The children gathered in various places, laughing and playing. A stone statue stood at the entrance of the village. The stone statue was exactly the same as Qin Feiyang. Bang! Suddenly, a terrifying aura rolled over from afar. The people in the village were shocked and looked up. Who was that? The aura was so strong, and it seemed a little familiar. Whoosh! Suddenly, a black figure rushed out from a wooden building halfway up the mountain and stood in the sky above the village with a trace of surprise in his eyes. "This seems to be the young master's aura," the person murmured. Whoosh! Another old man flew into the sky, his face full of surprise and doubt. "Old Yin, this aura." The old man looked at the void in the distance in surprise. That was right. These two people were Yin Wei and Wang Yangfeng. After hundreds of years of getting along, the two of them had become good friends despite their age difference. "This is impossible. The young master is in the ancient realm. How can it be his aura?" Yin Wei shook his head. "But this aura is exactly the same as his," Wang Yangfeng said. Whoosh! The aura approached from afar and soon entered the sight of Yin Wei and Wang Yangfeng. "It's the young master." Looking at Qin Feiyang, who was carrying Wang Jin, their eyes trembled. Immediately after, their faces were full of surprise and joy. When the two of them came back to their senses and were ready to welcome him, Qin Feiyang had already landed in front of them. "Greetings, young master." The two of them immediately knelt on one knee and said respectfully, "It's him, Qin Feiyang." The people of the Sky Tiger tribe and the Wong clan were also in an uproar in an instant. "Are you blind? Can't you see that Wang Jin's situation is not good?" Qin Feiyang looked at the two of them and shouted. Right now, he was not in the mood to reminisce. Wang Jin, Yin Wei, and Wang Yangfeng were stunned. Only then did they notice that Qin Feiyang was carrying Wang Jin. They hurried forward and asked, "What's wrong with her?" "It seems to be a miscarriage," Qin Feiyang said. "What? Jin is pregnant? Why didn't we know?" Wang Yangfeng was stunned. Qin Feiyang said angrily, "Is this the time to make a fuss?" "Understood, understood." Wang Yangfeng hurriedly took Wang Jin, looked at an old woman below, and said, "Come up quickly and help me take a look." The old woman flew up, took Wang Jin, and laid her flat in the void. Immediately after, the old woman waved her hand, and a battle chi emerged. A barrier appeared, blocking everyone's sight. "Young master, what's going on?" Yin Wei was suspicious. Qin Feiyang was silent. At this moment, the white-eyed wolf also flew over with Yin Yun. White-eyed wolf, Yin Wei, and Wang Yangfeng looked at the white-eyed wolf, but found that the white-eyed wolf's eyes were also terrifyingly gloomy. Immediately after, the two of them looked at Yin Yun and asked, "Yin Yun, what's going on?" Yin Yun lowered her head, not saying a word. Her face was full of fear. "This atmosphere is not right." Yin Wei and Wang Yangfeng looked at each other and couldn't help but feel nervous. The people of the Sky Tiger tribe and the Wong clan below were the same. "Master!" Soon after, accompanied by a cry of surprise, two young men aggressively flew out from the void in the distance. These two people were Wang Xiaojie and Qin Chun. Originally, he and Qin Chun were hunting in the distance, but suddenly sensed Qin Feiyang's aura and immediately ran back to check. Running back to take a look, it was really Master who had returned. Wang Xiaojie landed in front of Qin Feiyang and asked in surprise, "Master, When did you come back? Qin Chun was silent, but there was also a trace of joy in his eyes. But Qin Feiyang only glanced at the two of them, and then shifted his gaze to the barrier. What's going on? Wang Xiaojia and Qin Chun looked at each other, and then looked at Lu Xiaofei and Lu Xiaojia. The white-eyed wolf. Lu Xiaofei and his sister, the white-eyed wolf, were also silent. This feeling was not right. Wang Yangfeng walked to Wang Xiaojia's side and whispered, Xiaojia, your sister is pregnant. What? Sister is pregnant? Then, am I going to be an uncle? Wang Xiaojia was stunned. But before Wang Xiaojia could be happy, Wang Yangfeng said again, but it seems that she is going to have a miscarriage. Miscarriage? Wang Xiaojia was stunned and hurriedly said, why would she have a miscarriage? I don't know either. It was already like this when young master brought her back. Wang Yangfeng shook his head. Wang Xiaojia glanced at Qin Feiyang, walked to Yin Yun's side and said, brother-in-law, tell me, what's going on? Yin Yun lowered his head, not daring to look at Wang Xiaojia at all. At this time, the barrier dissipated. The old woman got up and looked at Qin Feiyang, asking, did Xiao Jin's stomach suffer a heavy blow? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Who did it? So cruel. If Xiao Jin didn't use battle qi to protect the fetus, she would definitely have a miscarriage. The old woman said angrily. Then how is she now? Qin Feiyang asked. Although there is battle qi to protect the fetus, it still affected the fetus. Moreover, Xiao Jin is very weak now and has to be treated immediately. I'll take Xiao Jin down first. After the old woman finished speaking, she carried Wang Jin, landed in the village below, and entered a wooden building. Wang Xiaojia couldn't help but look at Qin Feiyang and said, Master, what the hell is going on? Yanwei, Qin Qin, Wang Yangfeng, and the people in the village below also looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Qin Feiyang turned to look at Yin Yun and said, do you want to say it yourself, or do we help you? Swish. In an instant, everyone's eyes fell on Yin Yun. Yin Yun was extremely panicked. Say it quickly. White-eyed wolf shouted, it's me. I just had a small quarrel with Xiao Jin. On impulse, I hit Xiao Jin. I really didn't expect it to turn out like this. I don't know either. Xiao Jin is pregnant. Yin Yun hurriedly shouted, you dare to hit my sister? Wang Xiaojia suddenly rushed in front of Yin Yun, grabbed his clothes and roared, Xiaojia, I really didn't mean it. Yin Yun shook his head. Just a small quarrel? Did he just hit Wang Jin? Qin Feiyang was so angry that he laughed. Yin Yun's body trembled, and he looked at Qin Feiyang in panic. His face couldn't help but turn pale. Chapter 2792. Qin Feiyang looked at Lu Xiaofei and said, Xiaofei, tell everyone? Yes, uncle. Lu Xiaofei nodded and looked at Wang Xiaojia. Brother Xiaojia, this is what happened. Lu Xiaofei immediately recounted the process of this matter in detail. What? He married my sister because of my relationship with Master? Wang Xiaojia was stunned. Yin Wei, Wang Yangfeng, and the people below all looked at Yin Yun in disbelief. Young Master, is there a mistake? In my impression, Yin Yun is not such a person. Yin Wei looked at Qin Feiyang and said, yes, although he is a little addicted to alcohol, he is still very good to Jin. We can all see this. Wang Yangfeng added. Qin Feiyang looked at the two of them and said, are you suspecting that I have wronged him? We wouldn't dare. The two of them quickly lowered their heads. With the young master's status and strength, was there a need to wrongly accuse a small Yin Yun? Bastard! How dare you humiliate my sister? I'll kill you. Wang Xiaojia suddenly roared, grabbed Yin Yun's clothes, and punched Yin Yun in the face. Yin Yun immediately screamed, blood splattering from his face. Xiaojia, I was wrong. I won't dare to do it again. Yin Yun wailed desperately. My sister has had an unbearable experience, but her character is obvious to all. Respect the old and love the young. She is educated and reasonable. It's not easy for my sister to get to where she is today. I will never allow anyone to hurt her again. The furious Wang Xiaojia was completely out to kill. He kicked Yin Yun in the stomach, shattering Yin Yun's energy sea on the spot. Following that, Wang Xiaojia punched Yin Yun's back again. Yin Yun immediately smashed into a patch of grass in the village below like a meteorite. With a bang, a large pit appeared. Xiaojia, I am your brother-in-law, and the father of the child in your sister's stomach. If you kill me, they will become orphans and widows. Xiaojia, I'm really sorry. Please, give me another chance. I will definitely make up for the harm I've done to your sister. Looking at Wang Xiaojia, who was like a god of death, Yin Yun was terrified. He hurriedly crawled up and cried out, You don't have to make it up to me. As for my sister and her child, as her younger brother, I will take good care of them. Wang Xiaojia shook his head. Wang Yangfeng hurriedly pulled Wang Xiaojia and said, Xiaojia, don't be rash. You have to listen to your sister's opinion on this matter. Sister is too naive. That's why she was deceived by him for so many years. Wang Xiaojia shook off Wang Yangfeng's hand and walked coldly towards Yin Yun. Sigh. Wang Yangfeng sighed. He looked at Yin Wei and said, Old Yin, persuade little Jia. After all, Yin Yun is from your Sky Tiger tribe. Qin Feiyong was slightly taken aback. He turned to look at Yin Wei and frowned. He's from your Sky Tiger tribe? Yin Wei's gaze trembled. He hurriedly knelt in the air and said, Young lord, please forgive me. It's my fault for not disciplining him properly. Not bad. Not bad at all. I really want to know how many more of such scum there are in the Sky Tiger tribe. Qin Feiyong scanned the people in the village below. Everyone in the Sky Tiger tribe was trembling with fear. Yin Wei was even more panicked. Young lord, old Yin was also fooled by Yin Yun's facade. Actually, the people of our Wang clan and Sky Tiger tribe are all quite good people. Wang Yangfeng bowed and said, When the forest is big, there will always be a few scum. This Yin Yun is indeed hiding his strength. After interacting with him for so long, even I didn't realize that he was such a person. Qin Chun shook his head. Qin Feiyong glanced at Wang Yangfeng and Qin Chun. He took a deep breath and looked at Yin Wei. Get up. Thank you for your kindness, young lord. Yin Wei got up. Qin Feiyong said, In the future, keep your eyes open. People like him should be killed as soon as possible. Yes. Yin Wei replied respectfully, Although this matter has nothing to do with you directly, as the clan leader of the Sky Tiger tribe, it is your dereliction of duty for not educating your tribesmen well. You have to deal with the aftermath of this matter properly, Qin Feiyong said. Yes, young lord. Yin Wei said. Sigh. Qin Feiyong shook his head and sighed. Wang Jin's life was already miserable enough. Now that she had met such a scum, the heavens were too cruel to her. No, Xiaojia, I beg you, don't kill me. I really will change below. Yin Yun looked at Wang Xiaojia, who was standing in front of him like a devil god. His entire being was scared out of his wits. Go to hell and repent slowly, Wang Xiaojia said coldly. He raised his arm and pressed it on Yin Yun's head. No, Yin Yun screamed. But it was useless. As Wang Xiaojia exerted force, Yin Yun's head exploded like a watermelon on the spot. Then, he slowly fell to the ground. Killing you is not enough to vent the anger in my heart. Wang Xiaojia roared ferociously. With another kick, Yin Yun's body was also smashed. Flesh and blood were all over the ground. The entire village was dead silent at this moment. Everyone couldn't help but sigh. On one hand, they were a little sad. Although Yin Yun deserved to be killed, without Yin Yun, Wang Jin and the child in her stomach would become an orphan and a widow. The future days would be even more difficult. On the other hand, Wang Jin was such a well-behaved and sensible girl. Why was her fate so rough? Couldn't the heavens pity her a little more? Xiaojia, stop. At this time, Wang Jin ran out of the wooden building. Xiao Jin, you can't move around now, the old woman shouted as she chased after him. Wang Xiaojia finally put away his killing intent, walked in front of Wang Jin, and said with a smile, It's all right. Sister, mother and I, we will take care of you and the child in your stomach. Wang Jin looked at the place where Yin Yun died, then turned around and walked into the wooden building. Although fate was unfair, he still had to live on strong. Xiaojia. At this time, a woman ran over, looking very worried. Wang Xiaojia looked at the woman and smiled. Mother, go accompany sister and comfort her. Yes. The woman nodded and quickly walked into the wooden building. Sigh. What a pitiful child. The old woman also sighed and turned to return to the house. Whoosh. Wang Xiaojie took a deep breath, flew into the sky, and landed in front of Qin Feiyang. He bowed and said, "Thank you, master, for saving my sister again." Qin Feiyang sized up Wang Xiaojie and said, "Not bad compared to before. You have become more decisive." Wang Xiaojie said, "After all, hundreds of years have passed. This disciple should have matured." Qin Feiyang looked at Qin Shen again and said with relief, "You are also not bad. Still like before, able to keep calm at all times." Qin Shan rubbed his head, revealing a silly smile. Qin Feiyang asked, "Have you let go of the hatred for the Mu family and Mu Qing?" When Qin Shan heard this, his eyes suddenly sank. Qin Feiyang said, "Hatred may be the motivation for you to work hard, but it may also be the root of the disaster that will destroy your life." I understand. The hatred for the Mu family has long dissipated with the destruction of the Mu family, but the hatred for Mu Qing, I really can't forget. Qin Shan shook his head. I understand. However, it is not easy for you to find Mu Qing for revenge. Perhaps there will never be hope. Qin Feiyang said. In the past, Qin Shan had told him about the grudges with Mu Qing. In the past, in order to eat and wear, Qin Shan went to a restaurant to be a waiter. But because he accidentally bumped into Mu Qing made things difficult for him, making the restaurant owner fire Qin Shan and shattering his Qioshan. As a direct descendant of the Mu family, Mu Qing opened his all-seeing eye and was deeply doted on by the Mu family. Naturally, no one dared to go against his wishes. Later, Qin Chen's Qioshan was destroyed, and he was chased out of the restaurant. He was dissatisfied and ran to find the Mu family to reason, but in the end, he met Mu Qing at the door. It was also at that time that Mu Qing forced him to take the Calamity Spirit Pill. It was also because of taking the Calamity Spirit Pill that Qin Chen lost his cultivation and became a cripple. It was also because of this that Qin Chen's parents died of depression. At that time, Qin Chen even thought of suicide, which showed how big of a blow it was to him. In other words, Mu Qing was the executioner that caused the destruction of Qin Chen's family. Other grudges can be put down, but the death of one's parents, in all fairness, I believe that no one can easily put it down. Whether there is hope or not, I will not give up. Qin Shan said. Qin Feiyang sized up Qin Shan. This little guy's perseverance and unyielding character really made people have a whole new level of respect for him. Young master, don't keep standing here. Let's go over there and sit and talk. Yanwei said. Forget it. Originally, I came with a good mood, but I didn't expect to encounter such a thing, and my mood was instantly ruined. Qin Feiyang shook his head. I'm sorry. Yanwei lowered his head and blamed himself. All right, just discipline your clansmen well in the future. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Yes. Yanwei nodded respectfully. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and 10 crystal veins and spirit veins appeared. This is... Yanwei and Wang Yangfeng were surprised. Spirit vein, crystal vein. Qin Feiyang explained briefly, looked at the two of them and smiled. This is for you? This is too precious. Please don't. Yanwei and Wang Yangfeng hurriedly waved their hands. Qin Feiyang said unhappily, Since I'm giving it to you, just accept it. Why are you being so polite? This... The two of them looked at each other and nodded. All right then, thank you, young master. Qin Feiyang waved his hand again, and 20 supreme-level divine arts and hundreds of legendary divine artifacts appeared. Looking at the two of them, this is also for you. These divine artifacts and divine arts each have the power to destroy heaven and earth. So in the future, when you teach these divine artifacts and divine arts, you must look at the other party's character. White-Eyed Wolf said, White-Eyed Wolf is right. You must not give them to people with bad intentions. Qin Feiyang nodded. This subordinate will remember. The two of them bowed. Also, take good care of Wang Jing. Qin Feiyang said, and the two of them nodded. All right then, I'll go to the Central Divine Kingdom first. When I return, I'll meet up with you. Qin Feiyang smiled. Farewell, young master. The two of them smiled at each other and bowed. It seemed that the young master was just annoyed and didn't want to stay here any longer. He wasn't really angry with them. Qin Qin, you also come with me to the central divine kingdom. Qin Feiyong looked at Qin Shan and said, Me too. Qin Shan was stunned. Master, what about me? Wang Xiaojia hurriedly asked. You won't stay at home to take care of your sister? Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes. Wang Xiaojia smiled awkwardly and nodded. All right, I'll look for you after my sister calms down. Qin Feiyong shook his head and took a step forward. He brought along the white-eyed wolf, Lu Xiaofei and his sister, and Qin Chun, and quickly left. After Qin Feiyong left, Yanwei immediately looked at the clansmen below and shouted sternly, You've all seen it, right? If anyone dares to be like Yin Yun in the future, don't blame me for being rude. The people of the Wang clan will also remember this lesson. In short, you have to remember one thing. Talent is secondary. Character is the most important. No matter how talented one is, if one has bad character, he will only become a scourge in the end. We will not tolerate such people. We will kill whoever we find. Wang Yangfeng also shouted with a murderous aura. The people below couldn't help but lower their heads. Moreover, from now on, Wang Jin is my, Yinwei's, adopted daughter. Anyone who dares to harm her or slander her behind her back will be my, Yinwei's, enemy. Yinwei shouted again. This was to protect Wang Jin. Yinwei was not only the chief of the Sky Tiger tribe, but he had also followed Qin Feiyong for many years. Whether it was in the Great Qin or in the Forgotten Continent, he had a very high status. Even the emperor and Lu Qiuyu treated him with respect. Therefore, if Wang Jin became his adopted daughter, her status would undoubtedly rise. Naturally, no one would dare to say anything. When the clansmen below heard this, they seemed to be very gratified by Yinwei's decision. Yinwei retracted his gaze and looked at Wang Yangfeng. Old Wang, go and take a look at Xiaojin first. I will settle these spirit veins and crystal veins. Also, Yinwei gave Wang Yangfeng a divine weapon and a divine art and said, Give these to little Jin as well. Uncle Yin, why are you giving these to my sister? We'll talk about it later. How can the harm Yin Yun caused my sister be compensated with these external things? Wang Xiaojia said unhappily. Xiaojia, compensation is only one aspect. I also hope that Xiaojin will have the ability to protect herself when she encounters difficulties in the future. For example, if she had the ability to protect herself this time, why would she be bullied by Yin Yun? Xiaojin's fate in this life is already bumpy enough, so I can't let her suffer in the future. Also, when the young master returns, I will find some pills to help your sister raise her cultivation and unlock all the doors of potential. This way, even if you are not by her side in the future, she can take care of herself. Yinwei sighed. I see. Wang Xiaojia was enlightened and nodded. All right then, thank you, Uncle Yin. There's no need to thank a family. Yinwei smiled and immediately got busy. Wang Yangfeng also brought the divine weapon and divine technique to visit Wang Jin. Wang Xiaojia raised his head and looked in the direction where Qin Feiyong and the others left. Why did Master call Qin Chun? This made him very concerned. Xiaojia, why are you still standing up there? Wang Yangfeng asked suspiciously when he saw Wang Xiaoj, still standing in the void. I'll be right there. Wang Xiaojia snapped back to his senses and hurriedly retracted his gaze and flew down. Chapter 2793. Walking above the mountains and rivers, memories of the forgotten continent involuntarily surfaced in his mind. If his life was divided into 3 parts, the forgotten continent would be 1/3. For example, Yinwei, Tantai Li, and Mu Qing, they all met here. So this was a place he would never forget. Little Qinzi, do you still remember how your great-grandmother tricked you? White-eyed Wolf suddenly said. Of course I remember. Qin Feiyong shook his head and smiled. At that time, because of Tantai Li's torment, he almost faced the situation of being the enemy of the whole world in the forgotten continent. In the end, he found out that it was to train him. Uncle, then can you tell us about your experience in the forgotten continent? Lu Xiaofei was curious. Experience. Qin Feiyong murmured with a smile, This is a rather long experience. It can't be finished in 10 days or half a month. It's okay. Take your time, Lu Xiaofei said. Qin Shen followed by the side, not saying a word. In the past, the Forgotten Continent was not like now, where you could enter and leave as you wish. Qin Feiyong said, "It's the same now. Although we can enter the Forgotten Continent as we wish, it's difficult for others to enter the Butterfly Valley. It's the same for the people of the Forgotten Continent. It's difficult to enter the Ice Lake," Lu Xiaofei said. Qin Feiyong was slightly stunned and asked, "The two continents are not connected?" "No, because grandfather and Uncle Gongsun Bei considered that if the two continents were connected, it might bring a lot of trouble," Lu Xiaofei said. So it was their decision. Qin Feiyong nodded in realization. Since it was the decision of his father and Gongsun Bei, they must have gone through layers of consideration. "Uncle, continue." Lu Xiaofei's face was full of expectation. Qin Feiyong shook his head and smiled. "When your Uncle Wolf and I first entered the Forgotten Continent, it was not long after we entered the spirit state," Qin Feiyong slowly explained. Time passed little by little. Finally, a city covered in ice and snow entered the line of sight of the group. This was the 9th region, Ice Crystal City. It was also the entrance to the Central Divine Kingdom. "I never thought that you would have experienced so much in the Forgotten Continent. Compared to you, my sister and I are really like flowers in a greenhouse." Lu Xiaofei shook his head and sighed. "You only know now?" Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes at him. "Ha!" Lu Xiaofei laughed dryly. "There are too many problems in a person's life. If you want to grow up, you have to learn to face them alone." Qin Feiyong said, "I also want to go out and gain experience, but father and mother won't allow it." Lu Xiaofei rubbed his forehead and said. Qin Feiyong shook his head and said, "It's not that they don't allow it. It's just that you're not ready." "Do we still need to prepare for this?" Lu Xiaofei was stunned. "Of course. Do you think that just running out casually is called training? You need to have a goal for your training." Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. "Target." Lu Xiaofei lowered his head and pondered. Very soon, the group of people approached Ice Crystal City. Qin Feiyong looked at the white-eyed wolf and said, "In order to avoid unnecessary sensations, let's hide our identities." "You still know how to hide your identity? Brother thought that you were going to run in openly like this." The white-eyed wolf pursed his lips. In today's Great Qin and Forgotten Continent, who didn't know Qin Feiyong? Once Qin Feiyong appeared in Ice Crystal City, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. Qin Feiyong smiled bitterly and shook his head. This damn wolf cub really didn't let go of any opportunity to look down on him. Qin Feiyong waved his hand, and an illusory form pill appeared. He threw it into his mouth and turned into the appearance of a big man. The white-eyed wolf turned into a big black dog. Lu Xiaofei and his sister, Qin Shun, didn't change their appearances. The explanation they gave was that there weren't many people who knew them anyway. Moreover, they knew the person guarding the altar, so it would be convenient for them. Ice Crystal City. Although there were guards guarding it, they weren't very strict. The group of people entered the city smoothly. A few hundred years had passed. Ice Crystal City had expanded a lot, but walking on the streets and looking around, Qin Feiyong could still see some of the shadows of the past. "Come and take a look, come and take a look, the best mink fur coat." The sounds of hawking could be heard all around, and the streets were also filled with people and carriages, forming a bustling scene. Unknowingly, the group of people walked to a plaza. In the center of the plaza stood a majestic statue. This statue was Qin Feiyong again. "There's even a statue of you here?" The white-eyed wolf was astonished. "This is very normal." It was only because of Uncle that the Forgotten Continent was able to escape that disaster. So the people here are naturally extremely respectful towards Uncle. Lu Xiaofei said in a low voice, "Actually, there's no need to do this. Everyone living well is the best reward for me." Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. "That's what you think, but everyone doesn't think so. You saved 2 continents, they should at least show some appreciation for you. And only in this way will you not be forgotten. Otherwise, after a few hundred years, how many people will still remember you?" Lu Xiaofei said. "Is it that important whether they remember me or not?" Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. Lu Xiaofei said. Are you kidding? This is a supreme glory. Of course it's important. Glory, Qin Feiyang muttered. Some things, even if explained to Lu Xiaofei, he wouldn't understand. After all, he was still too young. Beside the statue was the altar that led to the central divine kingdom. Between the statue and the altar, there was an old man in black sitting cross-legged. The old man was as motionless as a mountain. Although it was snowing heavily, there wasn't a single snowflake on the old man's body. When the snowflakes fell on him, they instantly melted. An old acquaintance. Looking at this old man, Qin Feiyang's eyes gradually revealed a trace of a smile. Grandpa Yi, Lu Xiaojia shouted to the old man and ran over happily. The old man opened his eyes and looked at Lu Xiaojia. There was a touch of affection on his old face. Grandpa Yi, did you miss me? Lu Xiaojia ran over, hugged the old man's arm, and asked coquettishly.
Yes.
The old man looked kind and dotingly rubbed Lu Xiaojia's head. Grandpa Yi, what about me? Lu Xiaofei also ran over. Yes, I missed both of you. The old man chuckled. At this time, Qin Feiyang, White-Eyed Wolf, and Qin Shun also entered the square and walked toward the old man. Greetings, senior. Qin Shun bowed to salute. You're here too. The old man lightly smiled to Qin Shun. After that, he glanced at Qin Feiyang and the White-Eyed Wolf with a trace of suspicion in his eyes. After which, he turned to Lu Xiaofei and his sister as he asked in a low voice, Are they together with you too? Yes. Lu Xiaojia nodded. Then who are they? Why haven't I seen them before? And where did you meet them? The old man asked in a low voice. Grandpa Yi, what do you mean? Are you suspecting that they are bad guys? Lu Xiaofei asked in astonishment. You two are too young and too naive. You don't know how cruel the world is. The old man said in a deep voice. Hee, Grandpa Yi, they are not bad guys. They are our uncles. Lu Xiaojia laughed. Uncles? The old man was slightly stunned. He looked at Qin Feiyang and White-Eyed Wolf for a while and wondered, Why didn't I know that you have such an uncle? Old man Yi, what are you thinking? If we are really bad guys, do you think the two of them can still see you? White-Eyed Wolf was speechless. The old man looked at White-Eyed Wolf in surprise. The White-Eyed Wolf chuckled and said, Take a guess. Who exactly are we? There will be a prize if you guess correctly. You. The old man looked at Qin Feiyang and White-Eyed Wolf. He had no impression of them at all. However, judging from the big black dog's tone, they seemed to be very close. And he was Lu Xiaofei and Lu Xiaojia's uncle. He seemed to have heard from Lu Zheng that because of Qin Feiyang and Lu Hong's relationship, the Qin clan became Lu Hong's family. If he was really the uncle of Lu Xiaofei and Lu Xiaojia, then the person in front of him must be the son of the emperor and Lu Qiuyu. However, he had seen all the children of the emperor and Lu Qiuyu, and there was no such person at all. The old man racked his brains, but he still could not figure it out. He had thought of Qin Feiyang, but he quickly dismissed the idea, because he knew that Qin Feiyang had gone to the ancient world and could not be in the Great Qin. The old man smiled helplessly. He looked at the siblings and said, Don't keep me in suspense. Just tell me. Lu Xiaojia giggled and said in a low voice, Grandpa Yi, he is Qin Feiyang's uncle. What? The old man's eyes widened, and he immediately looked at Qin Feiyang. It's been a long time. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. You. The old man was dumbfounded. It was completely out of his expectations. You old man, they all call us uncle, and you still can't guess our identity. It seems that the older you get, the more muddle-headed you become. The White-Eyed Wolf shook his head. The old man looked at the White-Eyed Wolf, then at Qin Feiyang, and then at Lu Xiaofei and Lu Xiaojia. The siblings nodded with a smile. Is it really Qin Feiyang? The old man looked at Qin Feiyang, then at the White-Eyed Wolf and asked, Then you are the White-Eyed Wolf? You are the White-Eyed Wolf. Your whole family are White-Eyed Wolves. The White-Eyed Wolf rolled his eyes. The old man looked at the White-Eyed Wolf in a daze. This seemed to be something that only the White-Eyed Wolf could say. You? No. Why are you here? Didn't you go to the ancient world? The old man was a little incoherent. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, We came back a few days ago. So, we specially came to see you old friends. Then what about your appearance? The old man asked. Do you still need to ask? With such a big statue erected here, if we didn't change our appearance, would we be able to walk here alive? The white-eyed wolf said. Huh, that's true. The old man laughed dryly and nodded. How is it? How have you been these years? Qin Feiyong asked with a smile. Good, very good. The old man quickly nodded and asked, How about you? And Miss and Rushuang, have they come back? How are they doing now? The miss he mentioned was Tantai Li. As for Qin Rushuang, she was not only his relative, but also his disciple. Naturally, the old man's identity was revealed. Yishu, we are all good. Qin Feiyong nodded with a smile and transmitted his voice. Great-grandmother, do you want to come out for a while? Chapter 2794. Forget it. Otherwise, everyone will be teary-eyed when we leave. After a moment of hesitation, Tantai Li's voice sounded. Okay. He looked at Yishu and said with a smile, Great-grandmother and the others didn't come back, but they're doing very well. You don't have to worry. It was also them who told me to come back and see you when I came back. They didn't come back, Yishu murmured, a trace of disappointment on his old face. Then, he smiled and said, All right, as long as they're doing well. They're very happy now. The white-eyed wolf said, Why do you say that? Yishu looked at the white-eyed wolf curiously. The white-eyed wolf said, Because they found Qin Batian. What? Qin Batian is still alive? Yishu was surprised. Of course. He's in the ancient world. The white-eyed wolf nodded. They found Qin Batian. It would be strange if Miss and Rushuang weren't happy. Yishu chuckled. Qin Feiyong also smiled and asked, What about the others? How are they doing? They're doing well. Yishu nodded and smiled. Let's not talk here. Let's go to the Central Divine Kingdom first. Everyone will be happy to see you back. Then let's go. Qin Feiyong smiled. He was also somewhat impatient. Yishu waved his hand, and the altar quickly recovered. Why are you guarding the altar here? Did you do something wrong and Gongsun Bei sent you here? The white-eyed wolf smiled slyly. You're still as funny as ever. The world is peaceful now. What mistake can I make? I'm just bored. Gongsun Bei takes care of everything in the Pill Pagoda. I really have nothing to do, so I came here to guard the altar. Yishu shook his head. Qin Feiyong smiled and said, It seems that you admire Gongsun Bei's ability. Gongsun Bei is truly capable. Thank you for being merciful and not forcing him to stay by your side. Yishu chuckled. With Gongsun Bei's ability, if he really followed me to the ancient realm, his achievements would probably be far greater than what they are now. Qin Feiyong's tone was somewhat regretful. That's for sure. But wouldn't our pill tower lose this talent? Although it's a bit selfish of me to think this way, my pill tower really needs someone like him to lead us. Otherwise, our pill pagoda will sooner or later decline. Yishu smiled. Aren't you exaggerating a bit too much? I don't believe that no one in the Forgotten Continent can surpass Gongsun Bei. The white-eyed wolf pouted. You don't say. There really isn't. Even Wang Ziqing and the others cannot compare to Gongsun Bei. Yishu shook his head. Qin Feiyong asked, Wang Ziqing and the others are also in the pill tower? Yes. All these years, they have been assisting Gongsun Bei and have never left. Although their abilities are slightly inferior to Gongsun Bei's, they are still very outstanding. As for now, whether it's Gongsun Bei or Wang Ziqing, they have all become existences that countless people admire. Yishu smiled. After all, it's been hundreds of years. If they still don't have any achievements, it would be too embarrassing. Qin Feiyong smiled slightly. Don't say that. Wang Ziqing and the others are working so hard because of you. Yishu said. What does it have to do with me? Qin Feiyong was suspicious. They don't want to disappoint you. Because we all know that you will return sooner or later. When you return, how embarrassing would it be to see that there are no achievements? Moreover, they are all your subordinates. Everyone is paying attention to them. Naturally, they have to work harder. Yishu said. These guys. Qin Feiyong shook his head and smiled. Yishu looked at the activated teleportation altar and smiled. Let's go. The group stepped onto the altar one after another. The white-eyed wolf said, Aren't you afraid that no one will guard the altar and take the opportunity to sneak in? Are you kidding? Who would have the guts to do that? Besides, there are people guarding the central divine kingdom. Without our permission, it's impossible to sneak into the central divine kingdom without anyone noticing. Yishu smiled confidently. Is that so? When Brother Zhengjing and little Qinzi entered the central divine kingdom, didn't it mean that no one was there? The white-eyed wolf looked at him smugly. Yishu was stunned. He smiled bitterly and said, "Can the others compare to you freaks?" Freaks? Old man, you're mocking us. The white-eyed wolf glared at him unhappily. Haha, Yishu laughed. The central divine kingdom. Pill Pagoda Square. This place had not changed much. Trees lined both sides of the square. Young men and women hid in the trees to flirt. There was also a statue erected in the center of the square. It was another statue of Qin Feiyang. On the other side, there was an altar. An old man sat cross-legged beside the altar. This old man had a monkey face. He was not very tall, but his aura was extremely powerful. He was one of the hidden powerhouses of the Pill Pagoda, the monkey-faced old man. Back then, this person had even hunted down Qin Feiyang. Of course, at that time, the monkey-faced old man was deceived by young Master Hao's father and did not know the truth. There was also an old man with an aquiline nose. He was also a hidden powerhouse of the Pill Pagoda. Back then, when Qin Feiyang was wandering in the Forgotten Continent, they were two fake gods. As for their current cultivation, needless to say, they had already entered the war god realm in the miracle. Behind the monkey-faced old man was a stone staircase. Above the stone staircase was the main pagoda. Buzz. Suddenly, the altar shone brightly. The monkey-faced old man opened his eyes and looked at the altar. There was a trace of suspicion in his eyes. Soon, 4 people and 1 wolf appeared on the altar. Old Yi, the monkey-faced old man was stunned and said in surprise, "Why did you suddenly come back?" "Can I come back? Do you really think I was sent to the 9th region?" Yishu was dissatisfied. The monkey-faced old man laughed and looked at Qin Shun and Lu Xiaofei. He smiled and said, "You guys are here too." Yes. The 3 nodded and landed in front of the monkey-faced old man. They said respectfully, "Greetings, senior." No need to be so polite. The monkey-faced old man waved his hand and looked at Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf. A trace of suspicion flashed in his eyes. He said, "Old Yi, who are they? Take a guess. There will be a prize if you guess correctly." Yishu chuckled. The monkey-faced old man was speechless. Still keeping him in suspense? He looked at Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf seriously. After a while, he looked at Yishu and said, "Are they the young people you took a fancy to and specially brought to the main pagoda? How is that possible?" Yishu shook his head. Then the monkey-faced old man frowned and looked at Qin Shun and Lu Xiaofei. He said, "They are from the Great Qin? You guessed half of it." Yishu smiled. The monkey-faced old man said impatiently, "I said, don't be mysterious. Just tell me." Yishu whispered in the monkey-faced old man's ear. "What?" The monkey-faced old man suddenly stood up and stared at Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf. His face was full of disbelief. Yishu said, "I knew you would have such an expression. How is that possible?" The monkey-faced old man muttered, "Senior, I didn't scare you, did I?" Qin Feiyang smiled. "You don't say. I was really scared." The monkey-faced old man smiled bitterly and looked at the man and wolf. He shook his head and said, "You guys came back too suddenly." The white-eyed wolf said proudly, "We want to catch you guys off guard." "Heard about it." The monkey-faced old man shook his head and laughed. Suddenly, the monkey-faced old man seemed to have thought of something and asked, "What about Miss and Rushuang? Why don't I see them?" "They didn't come back." Yishu shook his head regretfully. "Why didn't they come back?" The monkey-faced old man was stunned, and his face suddenly changed. Could it be that they don't? Qin Feiyang hurriedly stopped and said, "Great-grandmother and the others are fine now. Don't think too much." The monkey-faced old man asked, "Since they're fine, why didn't they come back together?" I can't explain it clearly in a short time. It's a coincidence that I can come back. Qin Feiyang smiled. All right, as long as Miss and the others are doing well in the ancient world, that's more important than anything. Yi Shu patted the monkey-faced old man's shoulder. Are you sure you're not lying to me? The monkey-faced old man looked at Qin Feiyang. Why would I lie to you? Qin Feiyang was helpless. All right then. The monkey-faced old man nodded and smiled. It's rare for you to come back. Old man Yi and I will accompany you around? It's an honor. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Elder He. The monkey-faced old man looked at the main tower above and shouted. Immediately, a middle-aged man came down like lightning. This old man has something to do. Guard the altar for this old man. The monkey-faced old man said. Yes. The middle-aged man respectfully replied. By the way, where is Gongsun Bei now? The monkey-faced old man asked. The main tower master is in the meeting hall. Follow. The monkey-faced old man looked at Qin Feiyang and smiled. Let's go. Qin Feiyang nodded. Immediately, a group of people stepped on the stone stairs and walked up the main tower step by step. Who is this young man? Even old man Yi and the others have to accompany him personally? Elder, he looked at Qin Feiyang's back with eyes full of disbelief. The main tower had also been expanded a lot. However, the 10 pill towers that Qin Feiyang was familiar with were still there. Along the way, they met many disciples of the main tower. There were both men and women, and all of them were in high spirits and high spirits. The main tower had always been a supreme existence in the Forgotten Continent. To be able to enter the main tower was naturally a great honor. However, at this moment, when they saw Qin Feiyang, these young disciples could not help but stop and look. What's the situation? Old man Yi and the others are accompanying him personally? This person? I have never seen him before. But why does he look like he has a background? And that big black dog, look, that arrogant attitude, that disregard of its relatives. I feel that old man Yi and the others are just small followers in front of it. The disciples whispered in each other's ears. However, Qin Feiyang and the others turned a deaf ear to these discussions. They walked past the disciples one by one with an indifferent expression. The number of disciples in our main tower is now twice as many as when you were in the main tower. It can be said that there are many talents. The monkey-faced old man smiled. That's good. Qin Feiyang nodded his head. The white-eyed wolf asked curiously, then what position do Wang Ziqing and the others hold in the main tower? They don't have an actual position, that is, they stay in the main tower all year round. The monkey-faced old man shook his head. Then, the white-eyed wolf glanced at Qin Feiyang hesitantly and asked, what about Wang Yu'er and young Master Hao? Chapter 2795. Wang Yu'er has also been in the main tower, replacing Gongsun Bei as the Lord of the Law Enforcement Hall. She's been working hard all these years. As for young Master Hao, we haven't seen him for a long time. The monkey-faced old man shook his head. You haven't seen him? The white-eyed wolf was taken aback. Yes. Over the past few hundred years, he's been training in the endless ocean most of the time. The monkey-faced old man nodded. The endless ocean. The white-eyed wolf murmured, frowning. Could his training in the endless ocean have something to do with his father? His father? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. Have you forgotten? His father was sealed in the endless sea, Yi Zichen said. The white-eyed wolf said. Qin Feiyang thought for a moment and nodded. That's a good thing. After the great battle, all the strong enemies were killed, but then 3 pieces of flesh were found under a pile of rocks. The owners of the 3 pieces of flesh were Zhuge Shunfeng, the Grand Tutor, and the Chief Tower Master. At that time, the inner demons suggested keeping them as stepping stones for the child Qin Haoyan. Later, after some discussion, everyone agreed to it. However, the Grand Tutor's piece of flesh was destroyed by them, leaving only the Chief Tower Master and Zhuge Shunfeng. At that time, Qin Yuan personally went to seal it. The location of the seal was the endless ocean of the Forgotten Continent and the reincarnation ocean of the Great Qin. Now, the white-eyed wolf was obviously suspicious. Was young Master Hao training in the endless ocean to save the Chief Tower Master? That doesn't matter. The seal was set up by Uncle Yuan. With young Master Hao's strength, He can't break the seal. However, Qin Feiyong turned to look at Yi Shu and the monkey-faced old man. Has young Master Hao changed in the past few years? For example, in terms of personality. The other changes are not big, but he has become taciturn. Yi Shu said, that's for sure. After such a big change, it would be strange if he could still be as carefree as before. Qin Feiyong said. Furthermore, his hatred for you doesn't seem to have dissipated. Yi Shu said, let him be. In any case, I don't have any killing intent towards him. Besides, the gap between us will only widen in the future. His opponent is no longer me, but my brothers and sisters. Qin Feiyong shook his head. Yi Shu and the monkey-faced old man looked at each other and shook their heads. In this world, the only person who could say something like this was probably this kid. This was not because he was looking down on young Master Hao, but because he was absolutely confident and domineering. The two of them were no longer on the same level. Not to mention young Master Hao, even they could only look up to Qin Feiyong. The white-eyed wolf rolled his eyes and asked, is Wang Yu married? Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows and turned to look at the white-eyed wolf. What was this damned wolf cub thinking about? No. The monkey-faced old man and Yi Shu glanced at Qin Feiyong and shook their heads at the white-eyed wolf. She's not married yet? The white-eyed wolf was surprised. There are a lot of people pursuing her over the years. Her grandfather, Wang Su, and her father have been urging her, but she has always been silent. We think she's probably not going to marry for the rest of her life. Yi Shu shook his head and sighed. In fact, Wang Yu was really a good girl. Whether it was her ability or her character, she was 1 in 100. Unfortunately, fate played tricks on people. Wang Yu is not wrong, and Wang Su is not wrong either. It's Wang Yuanshan's fault. If it weren't for Wang Yuanshan, maybe Wang Yu and I might really be together. Qin Feiyong shook his head. Yes, at that time, you had already tried to accept her, and she had also given a lot to you. At that time, we all thought that you would definitely be together. But we didn't expect Wang Yuanshan to appear halfway, the white-eyed wolf said. This might be fate. Qin Feiyong smiled slightly. Fate was indeed a mysterious thing. Many things were always beyond one's expectations. They chatted along the way. The group stopped in front of a hall. Inside the hall, more than 20 people were sitting at the table, seemingly discussing something. This was the main tower's conference hall. Qin Feiyong secretly checked with his divine sense on the way, so he knew that Gongsun Bei and the others were now in the conference hall. The group stood outside and didn't make a sound. However, the people in the hall noticed Qin Feiyong and the others, because the door wasn't closed. Sitting at the top was a man in white, about 27 or 28 years old, sitting upright in the chair, exuding a calm temperament. This person was Gongsun Bei. Below, the leader was a woman wearing a long black dress. Her hair was tied up, giving off a cold aura. She was Wang Yu, Wang Ziqing, Raging Bull, Viper, the Spirit Empress, and the others were also there. Everyone had shed the frivolity of the past, becoming mature and steady, exuding the aura of a superior. Apart from these people, the rest were the upper echelons of the main tower. For example, the Tower Masters and Peak Masters. Among them, Qin Feiyong also saw 2 familiar faces, which were Wang Yu's parents. Because Wang Yu's parents used to be the Peak Master of Saint Peak and Sacred Tower Master. Gongsun Bei looked at Qin Feiyong and the others outside the door, and a trace of suspicion crept into his eyes. Then, he looked at the people present and smiled. That's all for today's meeting. Everyone nodded, immediately got up, and walked toward the door. Greetings, elders. Walking out of the door, everyone bowed to Yi Shu and the monkey-faced old man. At the same time, they cast a puzzled look at Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf. Like the other disciples, they found it a little unbelievable that Yi Shu and the monkey-faced old man accompanied them. Who was this person? Then, we'll be leaving too. Wang Ziqing and the others also got up and looked at Gongsun Bei. Okay. Gongsun Bei nodded. You guys don't have to leave. Yi Shu walked into the hall and looked at them with a smile. Huh. Wang Ziqing and the others were stunned, and looked at Yishu suspiciously. The monkey-faced old man, Qin Feiyang, the white-eyed wolf, Qin Shun, and Lu Xiaofei followed into the hall under everyone's puzzled gazes. Wang Yu did not leave either. Her cold face suddenly had a trace of a smile as she walked toward the Lu siblings and said, "You two are here. Hee. Auntie Yu is getting more and more beautiful." Lu Xiaojia hugged Wang Yu's arm affectionately. They're quite close. The white-eyed wolf was surprised. Last year, Auntie Yu made a special trip to Great Qin to celebrate little Jia's birthday. Lu Xiaofei whispered, "I see. Then why do you call her Auntie?" The white-eyed wolf was puzzled. "Mother told us to call her that. She said that it's affectionate." Lu Xiaofei thought to himself, "I'm really speechless. Obviously, you should call her Auntie." The white-eyed wolf shook his head. "It's just a title. It doesn't matter." Lu Xiaofei shrugged and ran to Wang Yu, saying, "Auntie, a day apart feels like 3 years. I really miss you so much." "Brat." Wang Yu glared at Lu Xiaofei, then looked at Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf, and asked in puzzlement, "They are?" "They are." Lu Xiaojia wanted to say it out loud without thinking. However, Lu Xiaofei hurriedly stopped his sister and transmitted his voice, "Children, don't talk nonsense." Lu Xiaojia was slightly stunned. Then, she looked at Wang Yu and Qin Feiyang. Her big eyes blinked and gradually revealed a look of realization. "What are you siblings doing?" Wang Yu looked at them suspiciously. "Nothing. You guys talk. Don't worry about us. We'll just watch from the side." Lu Xiaofei hurriedly pulled Lu Xiaojia and turned around to retreat to Qin Chen's side. Seeing this, Wang Yu could not help but feel angry. What was going on? "Yu let's go." A voice sounded outside the door. It was Wang Yu's mother. "Okay." Wang Yu nodded. "Xiaoyu." Yishu was about to speak, but he was stopped by Qin Feiyang, who shook his head and said, "Let her go. Aren't you guys going to talk?" Yishu looked at Qin Feiyang in a daze. "With my relationship with her, if we meet face to face, it will only make the atmosphere more awkward." Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. "All right." Yishu nodded. After Wang Yu left with her parents, Gongsun Bei stood up and said with a smile, "What are you two doing? Acting so mysterious?" "Yes. Who are this man and dog? And they let you personally lead the way? They're quite influential." Wang Ziqing looked at Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf. "Of course." The white-eyed wolf jumped up and onto the table. With an arrogant and domineering attitude, he shouted, "All of you, kneel down and sing conquer to this big brother." Gongsun Bei and the others were stunned. Was there something wrong with this dog? And from the looks of it, it seemed to be quite sick. "What's with your reaction? Believe it or not, this big brother will kill you." The white-eyed wolf shouted. "Forget it. This is the main tower. If you behave atrociously again, I'll throw you out directly." The big barbarian bull stretched its muscles, and the muscles all over its body concealed a terrifying power. "Ouch! How dare you be arrogant in front of this big brother?" The white-eyed wolf slapped with his paw and shouted, "Get down!" The big bull was stunned. He looked at Yishu and the monkey-faced old man and asked, "Can I do it?" "Go ahead." Yishu chuckled. A cold light flashed in the big bull's eyes. He raised his bowl-like fist and smashed it at the white-eyed wolf. The terrifying power hidden in his body surged out like a torrent. Boom! The fist and the paw collided. The great barbarian bull immediately lay down and heavily smashed into the ground, causing the entire great meeting hall to shake. "What?" Gongsun Bei, Wang Ziqing, and the others stared at the big bull with their mouths agape. It was defeated just like that? How was it? The white-eyed wolf stood on the table, his eyes full of pride. "So strong?" The big bull got up and stared at the white-eyed wolf in surprise. "Not just you. All of you together can only take a single paw." The white-eyed wolf said proudly. "Arrogant." Wang Ziqing was furious and shouted, "Kill it and eat dog meat." Boom. The aura of the group suddenly erupted. The people outside were alarmed and looked at the conference hall. "SK." The white-eyed wolf smiled disdainfully, raised his paw, and gently lowered it. A trace of divine power appeared. The aura of the group collapsed. Wang Ziqing and the others were also sent flying. Although the white-eyed wolf was merciful and did not suffer any fatal injuries, they were all in a sorry state. Chapter 2796. Seeing this scene, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but reveal a trace of a smile. Although they were not as strong as the white-eyed wolf, they had been quite united after all these years. Unity was what he wanted to see. However, Wang Ziqing and the others were stunned. Gongsun Bei was the same. This large black dog was too ridiculously strong, wasn't it? What do you think? Do you admit defeat? The white-eyed wolf looked at them proudly. Wang Ziqing sized up the white-eyed wolf, walked to Yishu's side, and asked in a low voice, "Old man Yi, where did this damn dog come from?" "Haha." Yishu smiled but did not say anything. "Can you not keep us in suspense?" Wang Ziqing was dissatisfied. Although the other party was very strong, he clearly had no ill intentions. However, their status in the Forgotten Continent was not low now. They knew all the slightly famous powerhouses, but they had never heard of this big black dog. "Open your little eyes and take a good look at who I am." The white-eyed wolf grinned, and his appearance immediately began to change. First, his hair turned from black to gold. Then, two small golden wings appeared on his back. Wang Ziqing and the others stared at the white-eyed wolf. Seeing the white-eyed wolf's transformation, a trace of surprise gradually crept into their eyes. When the white-eyed wolf completely reverted to his true form, the others immediately froze on the ground, their eyes filled with disbelief. "Haha." The white-eyed wolf grinned and looked at them. "Are you surprised? Are you surprised?" "Fuck. It's you, you bastard." Wang Ziqing came to his senses and immediately cursed. He ran to the white-eyed wolf and sized him up, as if to confirm whether he was real or not. "White-eyed wolf." Gongsun Bei was also stunned on the spot, muttering to himself, "What's going on? What happened?" Suddenly, a suspicious voice sounded from the outside. Everyone quivered and turned to look, only to see Wang Yu and her parents return. They had returned because they heard the commotion. However, when they arrived outside the main hall, they immediately found that the atmosphere was not right. Following closely, they looked at the white-eyed wolf and were stunned. Wasn't this it? At this moment, the entire hall was dead silent. On one hand, it was the identity of the white-eyed wolf. On the other hand, the return of Wang Yu and her parents undoubtedly made the atmosphere even more awkward. Qin Feiyang sighed inwardly. In the end, he still had to face it. Everyone present was smart enough to guess the identity of the white-eyed wolf once he revealed his true identity. As expected, when everyone came back to their senses, they all looked at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, no longer hiding his true appearance. Qin Feiyang, young master, Gongsun Bei, Wang Ziqing, Wang Yu, and her parents all stared fixedly at Qin Feiyang's face. This face, who could forget it? "Long time no see." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "Qin Feiyang." Gongsun Bei shuddered and quickly walked in front of Qin Feiyang. He grabbed Qin Feiyang's shoulders with both hands and said excitedly, "I didn't expect it to be you." Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Then I wonder if Brother Gongsun welcomes me?" "Of course," Gongsun Bei nodded. But before he could say anything, a cold voice rang out. "My chief tower doesn't welcome you. Get lost immediately." Everyone immediately looked at Wang Yu's father, because the person who spoke was Wang Yu's father. "Father, the chief tower is here. You don't have the right to speak." Wang Yu also turned her head to look with a trace of displeasure on her face. "It's fine." Gongsun Bei waved his hand, looked at Wang Yu's father, and sighed. "It's been hundreds of years. No matter how deep the grudge is, it should be over by now." "Over by now? How can it be so simple?" Wang Yu's father snorted coldly. "That's where you're wrong. We all saw what happened to Wang Yuanshan with our own eyes. It's all his fault." At that time, Qin Feiyang was already very kind, because he gave Wang Yuanshan more than once, but Wang Yuanshan didn't cherish it. "If it were us, we would have killed him too," Yishu said. Wang Yu's father couldn't help but fall silent. Wang Yuer glanced at Qin Feiyang, then turned to look at her parents and said, "Let's go." Yuer. The two of them quickly looked at Wang Yuer. Enough. It's really enough. Wang Yuer sighed and left without looking back. Her back looked extremely sad. Wang Yuer's parents looked coldly at Qin Feiyang, then turned and chased after Wang Yuer. Sigh. Gong Sun Bei also sighed deeply. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, "Don't blame yourself. It's not your fault." "I'm not blaming myself. I just feel a little sorry for them." As a big shot of the forgotten continent, they can't even distinguish between right and wrong. Qin Feiyang shook his head. They're actually pardonable. After all, they're Wang Yuanshan's descendants. You haven't seen Wang Su. He's been drinking all these years. He's no longer as elegant as he used to be. Gong Sun Bei shook his head. Drinking all day? Qin Feiyang frowned. Yes. Thinking back, he was such an awe-inspiring old man. And now, he's depressed all day long. His heart is like dead ashes. If you see him again, you probably won't recognize him. Gong Sun Bei said, "It's his own fault. Who's to blame?" White-eyed Wolf pursed his lips. Gong Sun Bei sighed. Even so, it's still pitiful. That's enough. The young master finally came back. Let's not talk about these disappointing things. Viper said. Yes, yes, yes. The big barbarian bull nodded repeatedly. He ran to Qin Feiyang and said with a silly smile, "Young master, when did you come back? Did you bring back any gifts for us?" Qin Feiyang looked at the big barbarian bull in shock and said, "Asking for gifts as soon as you open your mouth. This isn't your style." Of course, Qin Feiyang knew about the big barbarian bull. Don't be fooled by his charmingly naive and well-developed appearance. In fact, he was very shrewd. Someone as smart as Wang Zicheng had been schemed against by him many times. Hearing this, the big barbarian bull smiled embarrassedly. Qin Feiyang glanced at everyone and said with a smile, "I'm really gratified to see that you guys are so capable and still so united." "You're kidding. We're your soldiers after all. How can we embarrass you?" Viper said. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. He looked at Viper and asked, "Are you still studying the use of poison? Don't you know me? I'm loyal to one person." Viper said, "Loyal to one person?" Qin Feiyang shook his head speechlessly and asked with a smile, "Have you achieved anything now?" "Of course." Viper smiled proudly and said, "I can even poison the god of war to death now." Qin Feiyang was stunned and said speechlessly, "Is this something to be proud of?" "Isn't this something to be proud of?" Viper asked. "I know an old man who uses poison in the ancient world. The poison he created can even poison the overlords of the Nine Heaven State." Qin Feiyang was naturally talking about the Grand Elder of the Nine Heaven Palace. The deputy pavilion master of the Ru Bao Pavilion was so strong, but he was still crippled by the Grand Elder. It was obvious. How terrifying was the Grand Elder's use of poison? Nine Heaven State? Viper was stunned. Gong Sun Bei, Wang Zicheng and the others also looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Above the god of war is the Divine Lord. Above the Divine Lord is the Paragon God, and above the Paragon God is the Nine Heaven State. Think about it. How big is the gap between you and that old man? Qin Feiyang looked at Viper and smiled. Viper was stunned. There are so many realms above the god of war? Yeah. Qin Feiyang nodded. Viper asked, "Then what is your and Brother Wolf's cultivation level now?" "Us. I'm really not talented. I've just stepped into the Nine Heaven State." Qin Feiyang laughed. The group of people looked at Qin Feiyang in shock. After not seeing him for a few hundred years, this guy had also learned how to act cool. However, Qin Feiyang's self-destruction of his cultivation had really scared them quite a bit. Who would have thought that this man and Wolf would have already become so strong? It was no wonder that they were no match for the white-eyed Wolf's claws when they joined forces. This was an absolute suppression. "Are you guys done?" Qin Feiyang looked at them and asked. "We're done." Everyone nodded. Qin Feiyang laughed. "Then let's go to the land of inheritance." "Why are we going to the land of inheritance?" Gong Sun Bei was suspicious. He originally thought that Qin Feiyang would say that everyone would gather at the restaurant, but he didn't expect that they would actually go to the land of inheritance. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. I haven't been back for too long. I want to take a look. All right then. Gongsun Bei couldn't figure out Qin Feiyong's thoughts, so he didn't ask anymore and opened a portal. Immediately after, everyone entered in a single file. The land of inheritance. Qin Feiyong had once obtained the experience of the soul refining technique here. There were a total of 4 statues here. The first statue was of the first-generation chief pagoda master, Tantai Li's father. The second statue was of the first-generation chief pagoda master's disciple. The third statue was of Tantai Li herself. The fourth statue was of Qin Batian. At this moment, in the square where the statue was, an old man was sitting cross-legged. He had the cultivation of a god of war. He was the old man with a hooked nose. Yishu ran to the 9th area. The monkey-faced old man was in the Pill Pagoda Square, while the old man with a hooked nose stayed in the land of inheritance. Sensing the aura of Qin Feiyong and the others, the old man with a hooked nose opened his eyes. When he saw Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf, his gaze trembled. Greetings, old senior. Qin Feiyong bowed. I wouldn't dare. The old man with a hooked nose hurriedly got up and waved his hand. What a joke. Qin Feiyong was the savior of the great Qin in the forgotten continent. Even if he had to bow, he should be the one bowing to Qin Feiyong. After not seeing you for so many years, old senior has become more polite. Qin Feiyong smiled. The old man with a hooked nose shook his head and smiled. There was nothing he could do about it. If it were someone else, he could accept this bow with a clear conscience. But the person he was facing was Qin Feiyong. This was absolutely impossible. After all, back then, Qin Feiyong had sacrificed himself to save countless people who had died tragically. Such a noble act was enough to earn anyone's respect. When did you come back? Where's Miss and Rushuang? After the old man with a hooked nose calmed down, he looked at Qin Feiyong and asked, A few days ago. As for great-grandmother and the others, they're still in the ancient realm. They're doing well. Qin Feiyong smiled. He knew that the old man with a hooked nose would definitely ask about Tantai Li and Qin Rushuang's current situation like Yishu and the others, so he said it in advance. That's good. The old man with a hooked nose smiled and asked, Then why did you and the white-eyed wolf come back this time? I missed you, so I came back to see you. Qin Feiyong smiled. Ha ha. The old man with a hooked nose laughed, clearly not believing him. It's true, Qin Feiyong said. Is that so? The old man with a hooked nose was taken aback and smiled. Then it's our honor. Although hundreds of years had passed, this young man was still the same as before. He did not put on any airs and gave people a sense of familiarity. Chapter 2797. As you can see, the land of legacy hasn't changed at all. What's there to see? Gongsun Bei looked at Qin Feiyong suspiciously. But here, there are memories that belong to me. Qin Feiyong glanced at the 4 statues and smiled faintly. Memories, Gongsun Bei murmured. The past emerged in his mind like a tide. Indeed, there were memories of Qin Feiyong here. Back then, Qin Feiyong obtained the legacy here and became the disciple of the chief pagoda master. He also became the successor of the next chief pagoda master. But because of the selfishness of the previous chief pagoda master, he once wanted to kill Qin Feiyong. In fact, at that time, Qin Feiyong was not interested in the position of the chief pagoda master at all. It was completely the imagination of the previous chief pagoda master. It was also because of this that the conflict intensified. In the end, they were like archenemies. Of course, Gongsun Bei also knew that even if there was no such thing, Qin Feiyong and the previous chief pagoda master would sooner or later be angry, because the previous chief pagoda master had almost killed Tantai Li. As Tantai Li's junior, Qin Feiyong naturally could not stand by and watch. Thinking back, how good was my relationship with Mr. Hao? We were like brothers. Unfortunately, fate is also playing tricks on people. Qin Feiyong shook his head and sighed. At that time, Mr. Hao had given him a lot of help. And at that time, whether it was Qin Feiyong or Mr. Hao, they had no illusions about the position of the chief pagoda master. It was because of the chief pagoda master's self-righteousness that everything changed. Perhaps this is the cycle of cause and effect. Gongsun sighed. The sins that had been committed in the past would be retribution sooner or later. The chief pagoda master was the best example. Because of his jealousy of Qin Batian, because of his desire for power, he ruthlessly killed Tantili. Later, Tantili returned and made him lose everything. This was the so-called, where there is cause, there is effect. Cause and effect. Qin Feiyang murmured. Yes, like Qin Haoyan. Back then, he had killed Qin Haoyan's mother. Now, Qin Haoyan wanted to take revenge on him. Like his father. His father had driven him out of the imperial capital and crippled his cultivation. Later, he had entered the imperial capital to seek revenge. And the dragons wanted to plunder Qin Feiyang and Qin Baishan's bloodline power. Qin Feiyang and Qin Baishan's revenge was the result. Another example. He saved the common people because of karma. Now, the people of the world were grateful to him. This was the result. All of a sudden, Qin Feiyang seemed to have understood something, and his body quietly filled with an obscure aura. The white-eyed wolf was the first to notice Qin Feiyang's abnormality. He looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. At this moment, he felt that Qin Feiyang had become very ethereal. He was clearly right in front of him, but he seemed to be unable to capture him. What was going on? That's right. Everything in this world can't escape karma. It doesn't matter if it's a human or a ferocious beast. Every living thing in this world must have a cause and effect. In fact, this cause and effect is also a kind of power. Furthermore, this power seems to be inextricably linked together by thousands of threads. In this way, cause and effect are formed. Qin Feiyang whispered and slowly raised his arm. A wisp of almost transparent flame slowly condensed. This wisp of flame exuded an incomparably mysterious and profound aura. At this moment, the surrounding void began to distort. Gongsun and the others finally noticed Qin Feiyang's abnormality, and they all had a look of surprise. This is the aura of the power of law. The white-eyed wolf stared at the flame, and his eyes suddenly widened. The power of law? Gongsun and the others were taken aback and turned to look at the white-eyed wolf suspiciously. The power of law is a kind of power that surpasses divine power. For example, the time array evolved from the power of time. Little Qin has already comprehended the power of law of light in the ancient realm, and now he seems to have comprehended another power of law. The white-eyed wolf explained, his eyes full of disbelief. There really wasn't any sign at all. Could this be the so-called epiphany? At a certain point in time, when a person came into contact with a matter or a sentence, they could enter a state of enlightenment. This kind of enlightenment was called epiphany. Where there's cause, there's effect, Qin Feiyang murmured, and seemed to have awakened from the state of epiphany. He lowered his head and looked at the flame in his palm, and a smile crept onto his face. Little Qin, this is? The white-eyed wolf hurriedly asked. The power of cause and effect. It's the law of cause and effect. Qin Feiyang smiled. The law of cause and effect? The white-eyed wolf was stunned. He knew about the law of slaughter, the laws of light and darkness, and even the law of life and death, but this was the first time he had heard about the law of cause and effect. I didn't know about the law of cause and effect before, but when I just had my epiphany, I suddenly realized that everything in this world can't compare to the law of cause and effect. So, this law of cause and effect is also a kind of power. Qin Feiyang smiled. Even if the law of cause and effect really exists, isn't it too simple to comprehend a power of law? The white-eyed wolf was speechless. There's no time or place for epiphany. You'll comprehend it when you come. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. With a thought, the flame in his palm disappeared into his body. Monster. The white-eyed wolf shook his head. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but laugh. He turned to look at Gongsun and said, "Thank you, Brother Gongsun." "Why are you thanking me?" Gongsun looked at him in confusion. Every kind of epiphany is stimulated at an unintentional moment. And just now, that law of cause and effect you mentioned is equivalent to a trigger point, which is also the so-called fuse. In other words, If it weren't for your words, I wouldn't have been able to comprehend the law of cause and effect. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. So that's how it is. Gongsun Bei suddenly understood and smiled. Then, this is also the reason why you're so talented. Epiphany doesn't have much to do with one's talent. It's evolved from rich experience and comprehension of the world. Qin Feiyong said. Rich experience, comprehension of the world. Everyone couldn't help but ponder over this sentence. They didn't quite understand it. Don't blindly think about it. With your current ability, you won't be able to understand the true meaning. The white-eyed wolf shook his head. The group smiled bitterly. Everyone understood the meaning of this sentence, but they just couldn't understand the concept behind it. He felt that it was just a very ordinary sentence. The white-eyed wolf asked, "Do you know how many people in the entire ancient world have comprehended the law of cause and effect?" How many? Everyone looked at him curiously. The population of the ancient world is innumerable, and there are countless experts. Among them, there are also a lot of people who are stronger than little Qin Zi. But the number of people who have comprehended the law of cause and effect can be counted on one hand. It's not an exaggeration to say that even undead stage experts who have surpassed the 9 heavens stage will find it difficult to comprehend the law of cause and effect in their lifetime. The white-eyed wolf shook his head. Undead stage? Everyone was surprised. Undead stage experts can destroy the entire Great Qin and Forgotten Continent with a wave of their hand. How terrifying do you think undead stage experts are? The white-eyed wolf said. So powerful? Everyone looked at each other. It was completely beyond their imagination. The white-eyed wolf isn't exaggerating. Among the experts we know, any one of them has the strength to destroy the world. Qin Feiyong nodded. Is the ancient world the biggest world in this world? Wang Zicheng asked. The biggest? Qin Feiyong murmured and shook his head. I don't dare to say for sure. What do you mean? Everyone was puzzled. If it was before, I would tell you with certainty that the ancient world is the biggest and strongest world. But now, when Qin Feiyong said this, he couldn't help but look up at the sky. His deep eyes seemed to be able to peek into the world beyond the sky. There was a 4th level in the divine level, and the small beast also said that there were as many undead stage experts on the 4th level as dogs. If the small beast wasn't exaggerating, then it was hard to imagine how terrifying the 4th level was. Even the ancient realm was probably just a small world the size of a pellet in front of the 4th level. Of course, before seeing it with their own eyes, they couldn't jump to conclusions. After all, the small beast's words weren't necessarily true. Seeing that Qin Feiyong was silent, everyone tactfully didn't ask anymore. Because even if they asked and knew, they could only stare. However, after understanding how powerful this world was, their goals were different. In the past, their vision was limited to the Great Qin and the Forgotten Continent. They felt that it was good enough for everyone to step into the War God stage. But now, their goal was to reach a higher realm. For example, Sir God and Paragon God. Although the chances were slim, they still wanted to try. Fire Lotus, give me 10 crystal veins and spirit veins. Qin Feiyong glanced at everyone and secretly transmitted his voice. I've already prepared them for you. Fire Lotus's voice immediately sounded in Qin Feiyong's mind. You've already prepared them? Qin Feiyong was slightly stunned and shook his head with a bitter smile. This girl really knew him too well. She didn't even need him to say anything, and she knew what he wanted to do? To be honest, probably even the Emperor and Lu Qiuyu didn't know him as well as Fire Lotus. Qin Feiyong waved his hand, and 10 crystal veins and spirit veins immediately appeared. The energy next to them immediately surged in all directions with the land of inheritance as the center. This, Gongsun Bei and the others were shocked and raised their heads to look at the spirit veins and crystal veins, because at this moment, their cultivations were actually loosening. Do you still remember the Soul Stone? Qin Feiyong looked at Gongsun Bei and asked with a smile, Soul Stone? Gongsun Bei was stunned. After thinking for a while, he said, Are you talking about the Soul Stone that you got from the Guo family when you entered the ancient world? Yes. Qin Feiyong nodded. Of course I remember. Back then, you were able to step into the War God stage so quickly because of the Soul Stone, Gongsun Bei said. The soul stone is produced from these spirit veins. Qin Feiyong pointed at the 10 spirit veins and smiled. What? Gongsun Bei's eyes trembled. The other 10 are crystal veins. The divine crystals produced by them have the effect of recovering divine power. I'll give these to your main tower. Qin Feiyong said. This is also very valuable. That karma cycle just now, I just said it casually. You don't have to thank me. Gongsun Bei hurriedly waved his hand. Qin Feiyong looked at Gongsun Bei in shock and said, You think I'm giving you these spirit veins because I comprehended the law of karma? Isn't that the case? Gongsun Bei was stunned and looked at him suspiciously. Chapter 2798. Of course not. The main reason I came to the land of inheritance is to give you the soul line and crystal veins. Qin Feiyong shook his head and smiled. I see. Gongsun Bei nodded. The main tower is too big, and there are too many disciples. The energy of the soul line and crystal veins can't be taken care of. So, I think it's best to place the soul line and crystal veins here. As long as the soul line and crystal veins are properly placed, this place will instantly become a true cultivation holy land. At that time, you can let disciples with good talent and character come here to cultivate. Qin Feiyong said. Makes sense. Gongsun Bei nodded and clasped his hands. Thank you so much for giving us such a great gift as soon as you come back. Qin Feiyong smiled. If you really want to thank me, then follow me to the ancient world. The ancient world? Gongsun Bei was shocked. Yishu, the monkey-faced old man, and the old man with the aquiline nose were also stunned. Then, the three of them looked anxious. They looked at Qin Feiyong and said, Brat, you can't poach our people. It had been hundreds of years, but this kid was still thinking about Gongsun Bei. There was nothing they could do. Gongsun Bei was so outstanding. I'm just joking. Look at how nervous you are. Qin Feiyong shook his head and laughed. You can make such a joke? Our aging hearts won't be able to withstand it. Yishu rolled his eyes. Qin Feiyong laughed and jumped into the sky. Then, he waved his hand, and the entire land of inheritance was uprooted. After the crystal veins and soul line were placed and everything was restored, Yishu set up a divine power barrier. Soon, the place was filled with white mist. This was the energy of the soul line and crystal veins. Such terrifying energy. I can feel that if I cultivate here, I can break through in less than half a year. The aquiline nose old man sighed. Yishu and the monkey-faced old man nodded. Qin Feiyong, this brat, was truly their lucky star. There's no need to rush into seclusion. Qin Feiyong has finally returned. Naturally, we have to hold a welcoming dinner for him first. Gongsun Beida laughed. Right. Old man Yi, quickly go to the Longfeng Pavilion and make arrangements. We want to book the entire place tonight. The monkey-faced old man looked at Yishu and said, There's a fee for booking the whole place. Yishu said, Charging for our own people? You really are a stingy old man. The monkey-faced old man said with disdain. Qin Feiyong looked at the two of them and asked, Is the Dragon Wind Tower still around? This Longfeng Pavilion also contained many memories that belonged to him. Of course, the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion is a restaurant that Ruo Shuang built single-handedly. How can this old man let it disappear? Furthermore, right now, this old man is the tower master behind the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. Yishu said, I see. Qin Feiyong nodded in realization, then shook his head and said, Since you're the landlord, why do you charge for it? It's not easy for you to come back. Of course, this old man has to rip you off. Yishu said. Qin Feiyong couldn't help but laugh. Of course, he also knew that this was just a joke. All right, this old man will go to the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion first. You guys accompany Feiyong to walk around. Yishu smiled and looked at Qin Feiyong, saying, In the years that you weren't here, our main tower has changed quite a lot. Okay. Qin Feiyong nodded and smiled. After Yishu left, Lu Xiaofei rolled his eyes and looked at Qin Feiyong, saying, Uncle, then my sister and I will also go to the city to walk around? Qin Feiyong was stunned and reminded, Don't run around. We won't. We're going to find Situ Feiyong. When the time comes, We'll go directly to the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion to find you. Lu Xiaofei said. White-Eyed Wolf said, then you can call Fatso and Li Yin. Okay. Lu Xiaofei nodded and turned to look at Qin Chun, laughing. Brother, let's go together? Not going. Qin Chun shook his head. This guy? You're always so boring. Lu Xiaofei pursed his lips and ran out of the main tower with Lu Xiaojia. Gongsun Bei looked at the back of the brother and sister and said with a smile, looking at these juniors, do you feel old all of a sudden? Yes. Time really flies. Qin Feiyang sighed. Then you should also work hard. Don't wait until Lu Xiaofei's generation has children, and you're not married yet. Gongsun Bei teased. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly and looked at Gongsun Bei, saying, you have the nerve to talk about me? You seem to be older than me, but I don't see you married and have children. Gongsun Bei was stunned. At this time, he really couldn't refute. Let's go and walk around. Qin Feiyang smiled, and divine power surged out, forming a mask on his face. What are you doing? Wang Zicheng looked at him suspiciously, avoiding some unnecessary trouble. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. That's true. Wang Zicheng nodded. If the news of Qin Feiyang's return spread in the main tower, it would definitely cause an unprecedented sensation. Next, the group of people strolled around the main tower, talking and laughing, and the atmosphere was very harmonious. As for the white-eyed wolf, he turned back into the big black dog. However, although he hid his identity, it still caused quite a stir. Gongsun Bei, the tower master of the main tower, Wang Zicheng and the others, although they didn't have an actual position in the main tower, they were still famous. The monkey-faced old man and the hook-nosed old man, needless to say. In the entire forgotten continent, they were supreme existences. Such a group of big shots actually accompanied a man and a dog to stroll around the main tower? For the disciples of the main pagoda, this was simply a shocking matter. So now, everyone was guessing Qin Feiyang's identity. Who exactly was this divine being? Unknowingly, the group of people walked in front of a lake, and there was a small island in the middle of the lake, with green trees and wild flowers everywhere, like a paradise isolated from the world. This place. Qin Feiyang looked up at the small island in the middle of the lake, and the dusty memories involuntarily surfaced in his mind. This was the place where he used to live, Soothing Lake. At that time, there was only him, young Master Hao, and Wang Yuer in the entire Soothing Lake. He still remembered that Wang Yuer had snatched a part of the soul refining technique, and in order to snatch back this part, he quietly hid in Wang Yuer's courtyard, because he had activated the concealment technique at that time. Wang Yuer initially thought it was the ghost incident, and she was quite frightened. Now that he thought about it, he couldn't help but want to laugh. Qin Feiyang looked at Gongsun Bei and asked, is there anyone living in Soothing Lake now? No. Gongsun Bei shook his head. Then let's go and take a look. Qin Feiyang took a step forward, walking on the surface of the lake, step by step toward the small island. The white-eyed wolf followed behind. Brother Gongsun, why did you lie to him? Wang Yuer is clearly still living on this island. The Spirit Queen transmitted her voice. His memories are here. If he knows that Wang Yuer is still here, will he go over? Definitely not. Besides, he and Wang Yuer should have come to an end. Gongsun Bei sighed inwardly. Come to an end? Didn't they already come to an end at Wang Yuanshan's funeral back then? Wang Zicheng frowned. Gongsun Bei transmitted his voice. I'm referring to the knot in Yu Er's heart. Not in her heart. The few of them mumbled. Yes. You all know about Yu Er's state all these years. Although she looks very strong on the surface, there has always been a hidden pain in her heart. Otherwise, she wouldn't have become so cold all these years. Therefore, when Qin Feiyang returns this time, I sincerely hope that he can help her open up the knot in her heart and walk out of the past. Gongsun Bei said, I see. Wang Zicheng and the others were enlightened. Let's go. Gongsun Bei smiled and slowly followed him. The other places in the main tower had more or less changed. Only this calm heart lake, apart from the flowers and trees, was the same as before. Even the courtyard and pavilion were the same as before. Qin Feiyang scanned the familiar things with a smile on his face. But suddenly, the smile on his face froze. He saw a woman on a blue stone by the lake in front of him. This woman was Wang Yuer. At this moment, Wang Yuer was sitting on the blue stone, hugging her legs with both hands and curling up together. She looked at the lake in front of her with a lost expression. Where is she? Qin Feiyang was stunned and turned to look at Gongsun Bei. Gongsun Bei smiled and didn't explain. He went back the way he came and retreated to the lake shore. Wang Ziqing and the others looked at each other and turned back to the lake one after another. Seeing this, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but shake his head and smile bitterly. Obviously, these guys did it on purpose. This is a little interesting. The white-eyed wolf chuckled and also turned around, leaving Qin Feiyang behind. He didn't even look back as he rushed to Gongsun Bei's side. Brother Wolf, you're not angry with us? Barbarian Bull looked at White-Eyed Wolf and asked, Why would I be angry? To tell you the truth, I just hope that little Qinzi can be enlightened as soon as possible. White-Eyed Wolf smiled evilly. Everyone was stunned, then shook their heads and smiled helplessly. He was indeed a person who wanted to see the world in chaos. On the lake, Qin Feiyang looked at Gongsun Bei and the others helplessly and then turned back to look at Wang Yuer again. That lonely figure and that melancholy look made one's heart ache. Whoosh! Qin Feiyang took a deep breath, took off the mask on his face, and walked over slowly. Although Qin Feiyang didn't hide it, Wang Yuer still didn't notice his arrival. It could be seen that her mind was not here at all. Finally, Qin Feiyang walked in front of Wang Yuer, but even so, Wang Yuer still didn't notice him. It could be seen that she was in a mess now. As for the reason, it was obvious that it was because of Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang sighed and walked to the side, standing on a blue stone and looking at the calm lake. He didn't disturb Wang Yuer and kept silent. At this moment, the time and air here seemed to be still. What's going on? On the other side of the lake, White-Eyed Wolf looked at Qin Feiyang and Wang Yuer suspiciously. Why were they just standing there? There was no movement at all. I don't know where Yuer's mind is now. As for Qin Feiyang, Gongsun Bei shook his head and smiled bitterly. With this guy's EQ, he definitely doesn't know how to speak now, so he just stood there and kept silent. That's right. This blockhead's EQ is indeed worrying. Wang Ziqing nodded. Barbarian Bull, Viper, and the others also felt the same. Young Master's talent, strength, means, and intelligence were impeccable, but his EQ was the only thing that made people helpless. Chapter 2799. Time passed quietly. Why? Why did you come back? I've been trying very hard to forget you. Hundreds of years have passed and I think I've almost forgotten you. But why did you appear in front of me now, suddenly? Wang Yuer murmured. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. He lowered his head to look at Wang Yuer, thinking that Wang Yuer had noticed him and was talking to him. But when he looked at her, he realized that Wang Yuer was talking to herself. Trying hard to forget me, Qin Feiyang muttered. That was to say, she hadn't forgotten him? But at Wang Yuanshan's funeral, hadn't they already made a clean break? And at that time, it was Wang Yuer who said that she wanted to make a clean break with him. He thought that Wang Yuer had really let go of him, but he didn't expect that she still had him in her heart. At this moment, Qin Feiyang finally understood what Gongsun Bei and the others meant. Wang Yuer had a knot in her heart, and this knot had trapped her for hundreds of years, and he was the key to unlocking this knot in her heart. But then again, hundreds of years had passed and she still hadn't really let go of him. This was really a silly woman. What did Qin Feiyang do to deserve a woman's love? At this moment, Qin Feiyang felt like a scumbag. A good woman had been hurt by him like this. Although all this was not his fault, he couldn't help blaming himself. Alas, Qin Feiyang sighed in a low voice. Although the sigh was very soft, it pulled Wang Yuer back from her daze. Wang Yuer quivered and immediately looked up at Qin Feiyang. Why are you here? Immediately, she stood up, looking very flustered and didn't dare to look into Qin Feiyang's eyes. I've been here for a long time. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. A long time? Wang Yuer was stunned and hurriedly asked, Just now? I heard what you said just now. Qin Feiyang nodded. I heard everything. She lowered her head and retreated. looking even more flustered as she tried to avoid Qin Feiyang's gaze. She was completely unaware that she was currently standing on top of the bluestone. If she continued to retreat, she would fall down. Be careful. Qin Feiyang saw it and hurriedly reminded him. Wang Yuer looked at Qin Feiyang inexplicably and was still stepping back. In the end, she lost her footing and fell backwards with a cry of surprise. Seeing that the situation was not good, Qin Feiyang quickly stretched out his arm, grabbed Wang Yuer's wrist, and gently pulled her back. Wang Yuer was dumbfounded. She had never thought that she would have the chance to be in close contact with this man, even if he was just holding her wrist. At this moment, her heart was trembling, and her face was distressed. She forcefully shook off Qin Feiyang and shouted, Go immediately. Don't appear in front of me again. No, don't appear in front of me again, and I will never see you again. Was she running away because of love? Or was she running away because of hatred? In fact, Qin Feiyang knew it in his heart. He believed that Wang Yuer was also very clear in her heart. Qin Feiyang sighed secretly and said, Calm down, okay? Qin Feiyang's words completely ignited Wang Yuer's inner emotions. She roared, Tell me, how can I calm down? I know that we can't go back to the past. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I hope that you can let go of yourself and live happily every day. I believe that not only me, but all the people who care about you, such as your parents and Gongsun Bei, hope that you can walk out of the past. Qin Feiyang said. Live happily every day. Wang Yuer murmured, slowly squatted down, looked down at the lake and whispered, How can I live happily every day when my heart is dead? My heart is dead. Qin Feiyang was instantly enraged. He stepped forward and grabbed Wang Yuer's shoulder. He shouted, You don't live for others, and you don't live for me. You live for yourself. Do you understand? Wang Yuer looked up at Qin Feiyang's eyes and couldn't help but smile sadly. On one side is the family blood is thicker than water, and on the other side is the feelings that can't be let go. Can you understand this despair and powerlessness? In these hundreds of years, I have been forcing myself not to think about it, not to pay attention to it, to forget all of it. But is it really so easy to forget? The more I want to forget, the clearer I remember it. Every bit of it is like it happened yesterday. I want to use indifference to cover all of it, but who knows the real pain and helplessness in my heart? But this is not your fault, nor grandfather and father. I blame myself for being too incompetent. Wang Yuer shook her head, her face full of self-mockery. I'm sorry. I really didn't expect to hurt you so deeply. Qin Feiyang sighed. He didn't expect that Wang Yuer's feelings for him were still as deep as back then. No, it was even deeper than back then. If he didn't stop it, he was afraid that she would continue to sink deeper and deeper. But how could he stop it? Feelings came from one's heart. Other than Wang Yuer herself, who could cut it off? If others tried to persuade her, it would probably be counterproductive. You should go. Over the years, I have long been used to being alone. The more others persuade me, the more frustrated I feel. Let me be alone. I will be able to calm down after a while. Wang Yuer said in a low voice. But in her heart, she didn't want Qin Feiyang to leave. She longed for a warm embrace. But she knew that she couldn't do this. The figures of her grandfather, father, and mother appeared in her mind from time to time. Helplessness, despair, pain. They were like a curse, pressing down on her until she was about to suffocate and collapse. Qin Feiyang looked at her silently. Since all of this started because of him, let him end it completely so that both of them could be free. Phew. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath, stepped forward, took Wang Yuer's hand and said, Take me to see your grandfather and parents. What do you want to do? Wang Yuer was stunned and quickly asked, Propose marriage. Qin Feiyang said, What? Propose marriage? Wang Yuer was stunned, her face full of astonishment. That's right. If I miss such a good woman like you, it may be the regret of my life. Qin Feiyang lowered his head, looked at Wang Yuer, and said with a smile, Regret. Wang Yuer stared at Qin Feiyang in a daze. She didn't expect Qin Feiyang to suddenly say these words. Was she happy? Of course. There were countless nights in the past. She had yearned and fantasized about this scene. But in addition to being happy, she also had a trace of hesitation in her heart. It was too sudden, and she was not prepared at all. Besides, would her grandfather, father, and mother agree? Let's go. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Wang Yuer instinctively got up, but suddenly came back to her senses and shook off Qin Feiyang's hand again, shaking her head. No. Why not? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. You're just sympathizing with me. Besides, my grandfather and the rest will not agree. In this life, we are destined to be the most familiar strangers. Wang Yuer shook her head. Qin Feiyang frowned and said, You think I'm sympathizing with you? Aren't you? Wang Yuer asked. No, I'm serious. Speaking of which, it's quite funny. I've always thought that I'm a responsible man, but now I realize that I'm not. Because if I'm really a responsible man, I won't leave you alone in the forgotten continent and face all the pressure alone. Although I've been in the ancient realm all these years, looking at you now, I can imagine how you've spent all these years. I really don't want to make you sad again. Let's go and propose marriage. If they don't agree, I'll snatch you away from them. Qin Feiyang lowered his head and looked at Wang Yuer with a gentle smile. Wang Yuer looked at Qin Feiyang in a daze and said, Are these your heartfelt words? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Hearing this, Wang Yuer fell silent. Why aren't you saying anything? Are you unwilling? Qin Feiyang asked. No. Of course I'm willing. I want to be with you even in my dreams, but I'm just afraid. Wang Yuer hurriedly shook her head. Qin Feiyang asked, Afraid of your grandfather? Afraid of your parents? Yes. Wang Yuer nodded. Qin Feiyang looked at her deeply, and his divine sense rolled out, instantly enveloping the entire tower. Immediately after, 3 formless powers descended on 3 different locations in the main tower. The next moment, 3 figures appeared opposite Qin Feiyang and Wang Yuer. These 3 people were Wang Su and Wang Yuer's parents. Looking at the current Wang Su, Qin Feiyang felt emotional. He was sallow and emaciated, looking extremely sloppy. His white hair was messy, his eyes were dim and lifeless, and his entire body was filled with the smell of alcohol. Indeed, as Gong Sunbei said, he was no longer as elegant as before. Qin Feiyang. The 3 of them were suddenly detained here, and they were a little stunned. But immediately after, Wang Yuer's parents rushed to Wang Yuer's side, pushed Qin Feiyang away, and shouted, What are you doing here? Qin Feiyang. Wang Su looked at Qin Feiyang, and his turbid eyes were filled with hatred. I want to marry Yuer. Qin Feiyang looked at the 3 of them and said, What? The 3 of them froze and couldn't help but turn to look at Wang Yuer. Wang Yuer lowered her head, not daring to look at the 3 of them. Don't even think about it. Who do you think you are? What right do you have to touch my granddaughter? Wang Su came back to his senses and immediately roared. I know that you still hate me for killing Wang Yuanshan, but that's another matter. Can you bear to see you or suffer like this for the rest of her life? Qin Feiyang said. Wang Su said angrily, It's not us who made you or sad, it's you. Is that really the case? Think about it. If you didn't force her back then, would she choose to cut off all ties with me? Maybe we've already achieved the right result. In terms of age, you're all my elders. Logically speaking, you should be more sensible. But so many years have passed. What have you been doing? Not only did you not reflect on yourself, but you've been forcing the fault on me. The worst thing is that you've been pressuring Yuer. She's your daughter and granddaughter. She's your closest kin. As parents and grandfathers, shouldn't you hope that she can live better and happier than anyone else? Qin Feiyang said angrily. Chapter 2800. Shut up. Wang Su roared. His eyes were bloodshot as if he wanted to eat someone. Did I touch your sore spot? Are you angry out of shame? Especially you. You used to be a highly respected old man. How did you become so unreasonable now? Qin Feiyang looked at Wang Su and shouted coldly without mercy. Wang Su clenched his hands like a wild beast that was about to go crazy. And you? Qin Feiyang looked at Wang Yuer's parents again and said, Which parent in the world doesn't want their children to live a good life? But what about you? Just because of the little hatred in your heart, you forcefully restrained Wang Yuer. Do you think this is good for her? Wrong. You are selfish. To put it more bluntly, you don't deserve to be parents at all. Qin Feiyang looked at the two coldly. To be honest, he was also full of anger in his heart. He had already done his best for Wang Yuanshan's matter, because he had let Wang Yuanshan go several times. It was Wang Yuanshan who was stubborn and kept challenging his bottom line. And the few times he let Wang Yuanshan go, it was for the sake of Wang Yuer and Wang Su. But the result? Not only did these people not appreciate it, but they also hated him to the core. What was this? Don't say that. Seeing Qin Feiyang scolding Wang Su and the other two like this, Wang Yuer was burning with anxiety. I'm telling the truth. If they really love you, then they shouldn't impose their own wishes on you. Let's talk about it later. I, Qin Feiyang, have always had a clear conscience no matter who it is. I never regret killing Wang Yuanshan. Qin Feiyang looked at Wang Su and the other two and said, if you insist on blaming me, then I can only say that I overestimated you in the past. The three of them looked sullen. That's all I have to say. I don't want to say anything more. I'll take Yuer away. Qin Feiyang grabbed Wang Yuer and stepped into the air. Wang Yuer's mother quickly stood in front of Qin Feiyang and said angrily, what right do you have to take Yuer away? Why? Just because of what she has done for me. I can't let her continue to suffer like this. Since you can't take care of her, then I will take care of her. Qin Feiyang said with no expression. You, don't go too far. Wang Su gritted his teeth as he stared at Qin Feiyang. It's not that I'm bullying you. You're the ones who have placed your faces on the ground and trampled on them. Wang Su was so angry that he was out of breath. Of course. Whether Wang Yuer's heart not could be untied or not depended on now. In his heart, Wang Yuer had always been like a sister. So seeing Wang Yuer like this all day, he also felt very sad. Once, he also tried to enlighten her, but it was to no avail. If Wang Yuer and Qin Feiyang could really be together, it would naturally be the most perfect ending. But if they couldn't be together, as long as she could untie the knot in her heart for many years and let her accept and face all this calmly, it would be a good ending. Please step aside. Qin Feiyang looked at Wang Yuer's mother and said. Looking at Qin Feiyang, Wang Yuer's mother had some fear in her eyes. Although Qin Feiyang was a junior, she was no match for him in terms of means and strength. Yuer, she couldn't help but look at Wang Yuer. Since she didn't dare to do anything to Qin Feiyang, she could only put pressure on Wang Yuer. Wang Yuer lowered her head, and her painful face was full of struggle. Qin Feiyang sighed and said, I'm sorry to put you in a dilemma again. Wang Yuer looked up at Qin Feiyang, her face full of tears. Qin Feiyang raised his hand and gently wiped away Wang Yuer's tears. Then he looked at Wang Su and the other two and said, really, don't force her anymore. If there's anything, just come at me. Okay, I'll come at you. Wang Su couldn't bear it anymore. With a roar, he charged at Qin Feiyang like a wild beast, with murderous intent all over his body. Grandpa! Wang Yuer's face suddenly changed. Don't worry. Qin Feiyang smiled at Wang Yuer, but Wang Yuer wasn't worried about him. She was worried about Wang Su. Although she didn't know Qin Feiyang's current cultivation, she could imagine that with Qin Feiyang's talent, it must be far better than before. In the past, Wang Su was no match for Qin Feiyang, let alone now. This woman, Qin Feiyang shook his head and looked up at Wang Su, with a cold light flashing in his eyes. Don't hurt my grandpa, please. Wang Yuer grabbed Qin Feiyang's arm and begged, then aren't you afraid that he will hurt me? Qin Feiyang asked without looking back. Hurt you? Wang Yuer was slightly taken aback. She lowered her head and muttered, with your strength, how can grandpa hurt you? Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. An aura emerged and gently pushed Wang Yuer away. Just by this aura, Wang Yuer judged that her grandpa's strength was not at the same level as Qin Feiyang at all. The worry in her heart couldn't help but grow stronger. Wang Yuer's parents were also very nervous. They watched Qin Feiyang grow up, so they were very clear about Qin Feiyang's character. If others didn't offend him, he wouldn't offend them. If he was angered, even if the emperor was standing in front of him, he would dare to kill him. They were afraid that Qin Fei Yang would be angry and have the intention to kill the old master. This is a bit bad. On the other side, the Spirit Queen whispered, "Yes, who doesn't know the temper of the young master?" Wang Yuanshan's matterback then had already given Wang Su and Wang Yuer enough face. After so many years, Wang Su still refuses to let go. With the young master's character, I'm afraid he will really be angry. Viper murmured. Gongsun Bei was also a little worried. Would they end up making a fool of themselves? In the blink of an eye, Wang Su had already rushed to the front of Qin Fei Yang. His eyes were bloodshot. Obviously, he had lost his mind. At this moment, everyone's heart was in their throat. However, everyone thought that Qin Fei Yang would be angry and have the intention to kill, but he didn't show any signs of making a move. Bang! Wang Su slapped on Qin Fei Yang's chest. Puff! Qin Fei Yang spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot, and his whole body retreated continuously. Everyone froze there. He didn't make a move? Was this Qin Fei Yang? Was Qin Fei Yang the kind of person who would stand there and take a beating? No. The white-eyed wolf frowned. What's wrong? Wang Zicheng was surprised. With little Qin Zi's cultivation, even if he stands still, Wang Su can't hurt him at all. But now, he is spitting out blood? The white-eyed wolf said in disbelief. Hearing this, they couldn't help but look at Qin Fei Yang again. Scoundrel! Suddenly, the white-eyed wolf cursed. What now? Wang Zicheng and the others were taken aback by the white-eyed wolf. He must have given up all his defense. Otherwise, how could he be injured? The white-eyed wolf snorted coldly. Gave up all his defense? They were slightly stunned. Viper asked suspiciously, "Why did young master do this?" "How would I know?" The white-eyed wolf glared at him. Viper smiled embarrassedly. Gongsun Bei glanced at the white-eyed wolf, looked up at Qin Fei Yang, and then looked at Wang Yuer. There was a trace of understanding in his eyes. There was also a trace of gratitude on his face. He murmured, "Thank you." Obviously, Gongsun Bei had already noticed Qin Fei Yang's intention. Wang Su was also stunned by Qin Fei Yang's attitude of not fighting back, but he didn't restrain himself because of this. He punched at Qin Fei Yang again. Puff! Qin Fei Yang spat out another mouthful of blood and took a few steps back. How could this be? Why didn't he fight back? Wang Yuer murmured. Wang Yuer's parents also looked confused. Was this really Qin Fei Yang? Was he really not an imposter? They had serious doubts, because this was too different from what they had expected. "Do you think I will let you go if you don't fight back?" "No. Absolutely not. Blood for blood. Since you want to die, I will fulfill your wish." Wang Su roared in the sky. His face was full of hatred. With a clang, a combat sword appeared. "Grandpa, stop!" Wang Yuer's face changed drastically. She quickly shouted. But seeing this, her parents immediately stepped forward and pulled Wang Yuer from both sides. "Father, mother, let go. If this goes on, Qin Fei Yang will be killed by Grandpa." Wang Yuer roared. "He deserves to die." Wang Yuer's father snorted coldly. "Father!" Wang Yuer's body trembled and her face turned pale. "Wang Su, I will destroy your Sea of Qi first." With a sword, he went straight to Qin Fei Yang's Sea of Qi. Puff! All of a sudden, blood suddenly appeared. The combat sword sank into Qin Fei Yang's Sea of Qi, which was shattered on the spot. "What the hell is this bastard doing?" The white-eyed wolf frowned. How could an ordinary combat sword pierce Qin Fei Yang's Sea of Qi? Wasn't he giving up all his defense? One had to know. Qin Fei Yang was not only at the ninth heaven realm, but his body had also been tempered by heaven tribulation, let alone an ordinary battle sword. Even an ordinary divine artifact would not be able to harm Qin Fei Yang in the slightest. The white-eyed wolf couldn't figure out why Qin Fei Yang gave up his defense and let Wang Su do whatever he wanted. Why didn't he fight back? Wang Yuer's parents looked at each other when they saw this. Who didn't know the importance of the Sea of Qi? How could Qin Fei Yang not fight back when his Sea of Qi was shattered? It was too abnormal. "Grandpa, no, I beg you, please stop." But Wang Yuer burst into tears and kept shouting at Wang Su. Her voice was almost hoarse. However, Wang Su turned a deaf ear to her. He raised his combat sword and chopped at Qin Feiyang's left hand again, his eyes full of madness. Crack! Qin Feiyang's left arm broke on the spot and blood gushed out. No, Grandpa, I beg you, please stop. Qin Feiyang, why didn't you fight back? At least hide. Wang Yu was already shouting herself hoarse and her face was full of pain. God, what did I do wrong? Why did you torture me like this? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.